hidden, forgotten. This is Harbor Town. Harbor Town is an all-new series from Miniature Building Authority, the leader in tabletop gaming scenery. Unique, flexible, and playable, Harbor Town will take your games to a new destination.
That's our shtick. They can hear us, but who cares?
Oh, we're talking over this?
Yeah, it's okay though.
Hey, I recognize that shoe. Are those the towers you're talking about?
Yeah, man.
Oh, those are beautiful.
Yeah, all resin. Love NBA stuff. Love it.
Yeah. I don't remember if Monday Night Productions doing resin. I think they're doing resin castings on this. They're a lot of their drinks now. But they're doing a lot of World War II and colonics and all kinds of stuff.
Anna's on.
Yay, Anna!
How hard it is to find music that's general use. Whew, well, that's difficult.
Yeah. So you're not playing the same thing every single time.
Right, and also you don't get flagged.
Crap.
Because Twitch will just shut your music right off.
Yeah, it's like,
Shut all sound off. It's annoying. But...
Oh, man, sorry about that. I was trying to.
We're good.
I wanted to see the chat.
You're good, man. I want you to see attack too. I want you to participate in the chat. Absolutely. More people hopping on.
Quiet.
I'm going to switch over scenes in a second. Good. How does it go?
There we go. Let's get to that.
Yes, there's an as.
Yeah, there we go.
Oops, I missed it by a second. My bad. All right. Welcome.
Oh, come on, dude.
I know one of them isn't yours up, but that's...
Oh, I'm not worried about that. I mean, I haven't really designed. I haven't done that one, the Hardby Marines one. I really should at some point. part of it is I'm just kind of lazy and I don't want to deal with the Skype sale.
Yeah, don't blame me.
You know, it's like that's gonna take a little bit of work, and I have other fish to fry before I do that. You know,
Choo-choo. It's amazing how tough it is to find open use material that you can, you know, safely play. But that's just part. Yeah,
it's just part and parcel of the whole thing.
That is a major issue. Yes, it is, guys. It's a major problem for doing this, but that's all right.
Well, and you don't want to sound like everyone else out there. Like if you start using the stuff that Matt Mercer can actually afford. You know, Critical Role can afford to pay for music now. They have people making music for them. Or they
Right, exactly. It may
right,
be,
but before they were using open source stuff. And
same here. Yep.
You're going to sound like just everybody else because there's a limited amount of it, and you know.
Well, the tavern, I actually went on one of those ambient mixer sites and created it myself, so that it was different a little bit with the doors slamming and all that goofy stuff.
Right.
So.
Well, one of the interesting things about Matt Colville is he has this synthesizer that he plugs in modules and then it creates music. And so he's like literally creating just fresh music, you know, based on the modules you plug it in. He parts around with that and you understand how it functions, but it just, you know, it'll have like a particular tonal quality and maybe a beat, and you know, he just has that running in his background. But you know, that's his solution to having original sounds behind him when he's doing his casts, and that's awesome.
Isn't it great? We can just BS in the background. It's like our shtick now. So
yeah,
it's pretty cool. So good evening, everyone. Wow, lots of viewers on already. I'm J.K. Lord Gazumba, and I have returning special guest Bryan Blumklotz to talk a little different topic this time. This is called Hardby Revisited number 44, because we did Hardby number 14 back when we were basically nobody, and no one watched that one, and we didn't know, you know, we were still getting our feet wet. And now that we've done a couple adventures, big one the last couple of weeks that was in Hardby, we wanted to come bring this back, and that's why I asked Bryan to come on, because this Hardby's is basically your baby in Greyhawk. I mean, tell us a little bit about what you've done. Okay.
Hardby became an interest of mine when I'm currently playing in someone else's D&D campaign right now, which is a homebrew world, and it's a lot of fun, but I've been banging around this idea of adventuring, and I didn't want to adventure in the city of Greyhawk for some reason. I just got contrary and said, well, let's just do some research on Hardby. And then I started researching it, and I kind of found this little mystery, at least to me, about, you know, why was all this stuff so widely different depending on what era it was being published. And I just kind of like realized, wow, this was like this wasted opportunity that TSR and then Wizard of the Coast had.
I'll tell you.
Yeah. And, you know, and it's like, you know, Hardby was kind of like the rump end of the stick, the joke, you know, you could make fun of, and you know, it had a weird sounding nobility, the Gynarchs. I mean, my wife laughed. My wife laughed the first time I said that. She says, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, really." You know, who did that? I said, "Gary." She goes, "Yeah." And it sounds like Gary. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, you know, it's just like, you know, it's just, you know, like she shook her head and said, "Oh, okay, whatever." And, you know, and then I said Despotrix, and she was like, "Really?" You know, because it, you know, it sounds like something out of a bondage and discipline thing.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, and I know Brian and I came on and we were like, well, what format are we going to do this in? So I said, well, we'll do an announcement or two. We're going to go back. We're going to do like a backward episode. I'm going to say what we've done recently and then go backwards to where we got to it. I think that's the
Right.
best way to do it, don't you think? Just to figure out how we got to where we are with this, because it's just like, this is my Hardby mess right here. Notes
That's your
upon
notes.
Yeah, this is it. It's so much. It's so much, and it's all over the place. And
Well-
and I fell in love with Hardby. I'll tell you when. Back in like
Well, I got to interrupt you.
Go
You
ahead.
got to
No,
do
sure.
you got to do some fan service here and do your announcements first, because we're diving right into the subject.
All right, well, let's do that. All right, this is the
Yeah,
big
yeah.
announcement. As we get through all of our initial month subscribers here, we got a lot of them coming on. This is a big announcement and I got Naz, Rox, Anna on right now, and some other hardcore people. I want to say thanks. There's a site where you can actually. We'll do some of the general ones at the end, but this one's big. You can actually go on and take a look at stats. The last 7 days. This goes back to Brian's episode, our 5e game, okay, that we did on VTT, all the way back to today. We were the number 19th. We were in the top 20 in all Dungeons and Dragons shows. That includes Critical Role, Hyper RPG, Geek and Sundry, and viewership hours watched on the entire Twitch thing. Top 20
Sweet.
out of all shows. I mean, that's unbelievable to come that far. Yes, it was like 1,100 hours of watch. So I was like, I wanted to say that was yes, thanks, Naz. That was mega, going all the way back. Yeah. So thank you all. It's we're gonna keep it going with the viewership we have on tonight. We're gonna keep it going. Thanks, guys. But I wanted to say that it's the first time ever, of course, that we've ever. Yeah. Clearly, your charm, Naz, paid off in that game Saturday night. Having a Brit on in our 5e game, Brian. That was Anna played, I played, Bill the Master Crafter played, and then Naz played, and Brian Sublime DM'd it, and it was our first time.
The other Brian.
The other Brian. Yes, the drunk Brian he was
Yeah.
bombed by the end of the night. It was hysterical. He was all laughing and giggling and stuff. It was great, but we had a
Now,
blast.
Does
So
he spell his name with an I or a Y?
with an
I
I.
mean, okay, so he's
With
the
an
wrong
I.
kind of Brian. All
Yeah,
right. Sorry,
absolutely.
Brian.
He's a different kind of Brian. He normally is on modding. He's probably running late, but he normally comes on and mods. He always mods on Thursday. But we are the next scheduled event for that, and I'll make that announcement now because two of those players are on, Anna and Naz. Is Saturday, June 1st, 8:00 p.m. EDT. We're going to run the second part of Iris of the Moon, where we collected a flower. Now we're going to go to a wedding, and this takes place in near Saltmarsh, near Burl and Saltmarsh. It's a Greyhawk base, and it's me playing 5e. Can you imagine that, Brian? Well,
So I gotta ask you.
yeah.
How was it playing in 5e?
Playing it was fine, and I played a specialty priestess of Palor, so I played a cleric of light, or cleric, had all these sun spells and stuff. So I liked it. I wouldn't. My style of gameplay on the tabletop with multiple characters in the groups and all, it wouldn't be amenable too well. And my guys are really set in their ways, so you can't. But to play it occasionally and to have another DM showing it on VTT, and particularly Fantasy Grounds, is a great thing to show that we were wide on content. Brian loves DMing 5e, so I'm going to let him be the 5e DM on the channel, which is great.
Awesome.
Yeah, so now and I got him into Greyhawk. He loves doing the Greyhawk over Forgotten Realms, and he loves Anna's maps, and he has Anna's maps all over his Obsidian Portal site, and Anna's playing in that group. So it's
Nice.
it's going great. It's going great, and I think that that event helped us get cred with some of the 5 years.
Well, I'll just say this: is
Yeah.
that
We're trying
I
things.
don't really care which version of D&D you're playing, as long
Exactly.
as you're playing D&D. I know Anna is flirting with Pathfinder 2 for her home campaign.
Yep.
I know Carlos is, old school 1E guy. You're the hybrid 1E 2E guy. I've played every edition of D&D there is. I'm currently playing in 5e, but I'll play others in a pinch. I mean, there's some I love more than others. It really doesn't matter. Are you around the table having fun?
That's
the important thing, and are you creating a story together, and are you sharing memory and having fun? If that's what you're doing, you're playing D&D, you're playing an RPG, and I think that's important. It's that communal experience of being around the table and having those stories. I mean, I've heard a lot of other, more famous people than me on, at least, D&D famous, talking about how the memories we build at the table are just as real to us. The stories that we tell each other after we do these things at the table, they have the same memory, the same channels in our brain, and we still get that same serotonin hit when we talk about all those crazy things we did at the table, like like it really happened in the real world.
Absolutely.
And that's the amazing thing about this game, and I'm so glad that it's in its renaissance. So whatever edition you came here with, whatever edition you are currently playing or going to play, hats off to you guys. Thank you for joining us, man.
Oh, absolutely. And what I like about what we're doing, you, me, and all of our followers and viewers, and I brought a lot into our server, trying to get. I don't care, and a lot of other channels. I don't care. I want to get them all excited about what we're trying to do in Greyhawk. And we have supporters for Greyhawk too that don't play Greyhawk, like Tim the Nazrat. He doesn't play, he doesn't DM his Greyhawk campaign, but he's getting a appreciation for it. And then he played in the Greyhawk game and then that 5e game. So I'm trying to get more. I'm going to try and get more of my subs involved too, the hardcore good ones. That's a part of being a sub and a partner. And I just want to grow Greyhawk even more, and get it back to where it was years ago. But we'll see what happens with that, and that's part of what this discussion is about. Because I think this is a diamond in the rough. I laughed at Hardby the way you did back in, and I remember an adventure. And it's got to be 15 years ago at least. It's probably almost 20 years ago. We have a group called the Slavers. I mean, we got terrible names for groups. That sounds like bad guys, right? It's basically the Defenders Against Slavery. It's a bunch of older viewer characters. And
considering the Slavers are the bad guys.
So it was right when this reference came out, right? And whoops, it's falling apart. See, it's used so much. It's right when this reference first came out. Oh my God, yours is like 100 times better. When the Slavers reference came out, we were doing a lot of stuff along in the Wild Coast, and they came into Hardby and they got tied up. We have this one guy, my player Alan. He has this a specialty priest Accord who doesn't take crap from everyone. Well, he got arrested in Hardby, and he got lifetime banned in Hardby, and that's when we started. Because he was doing stuff. I mean, they didn't really
shouldn't do.
Shouldn't do, and and just like everyone else. But Judge Alita had his case, and she threw the book at him, and lifetime banned him from. So now he says he's going to call a barbarian horde and burn Hardby to the ground one day, which I like. Which is kind of like when it started with wow, I had the Slavers reference now, but then I couldn't find anything on Hardby. I couldn't find anything because I wasn't a Living Greyhawk guy. When Living Greyhawk start, by the way?
2000.
All right, so it was this year. With this it came out the same year as Slavers came out, but I wasn't into Living Greyhawk. But then, two things came out. I don't know which one came out before the other. In Dungeon, April 2004, by Paul Luby. Did you know him? Hardby City
I believe Paul is in England, and I don't know him. I know several of our mutual acquaintances know Paul pretty well.
Okay.
I mean, and he's a known quantity within the Greyhawk community. So Paul Luby's article came out after Sean K. Reynolds stuff and kind of embraced and extended it. Is that 104 or 109? I thought.
I have just down Dungeon April 2004. So
that's in my notes.
Yeah.
That's Dungeon 109.
Okay, it's 109. Let me note that.
Yeah, it's called Hardby City of Scorned. Yeah. So we'll talk about the different source material and in the. So I have a question for you.
Sure.
What was when did you first start adventuring or have them adventure in Hardby in your campaign? I mean, was it like in the first couple of years? Was it like
Late.
5 years into it?
We're talking in the 2000s. I'm talking 2004, 2005. That was it.
Oh,
Because
okay.
what
So
we yeah. Oh no. It was only it's listen to recently 15 years.
recently, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You
Yeah.
know,
Anna,
over a decade ago, but it was recent.
Anna said she's emailed Paul Luby back and forth, which is a good thing. Cool, great to hear, Anna.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, it was back then because we did all our adventure. In that article I just wrote that you saw was all Greyhawk. We did just Greyhawk adventuring groups, and I said I want to expand it to Hardby. So I got a hold of this. Then I did start doing research, and I found this gem in Earth Journal 10.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, this was City Hardby Earth Journal 10 by James Muldowney.
Yeah. I didn't read through a lot of the Earth Journal stuff, and I didn't scour the Cannon Fire website,
Right.
because the research I was doing was officially published material, and the fan published material. If you go into the fanon, as people would call it, the fan material,
Right.
you can really go far afield because it's a lot of it, connected into the official published material, and some of it was just like said, nope, I'm rejecting that, we're going to go our own way. And so and that's great, but when I was doing that research for the Legends and Lore show, I was trying to really kind of talk about, well, this is what was officially published. This was the the published material that came out from TSR and Wizard of the Coast. So I intentionally didn't read a lot, so I'm not as familiar with that.
Cool. Well, here's what the one cool thing about this. They did up a ton. It's like almost like City State of the Invincible over a level. They did all these shops and taverns and bars. So if you take this, and I'll scan through this real quick up here on the maps. I'll show you. It's a great mix. All right, there's Anna's map.
Yep.
Okay, there's a map from Paul Luby. I turn it sideways so it looks the same. Okay.
And that's actually a similar map to what was done.
Yeah.
Essentially, that map that was published in Dungeon was based off the map that was in
the Slavers.
Well, it's actually the Slavers map is based off another map that's I want to say Adventure Begins.
Okay.
There was a little supplement booklet that had a bunch of maps for the Wild Coast, and Hardby was one of the places in it. And but it was just really basic. Like it had the wall and the districts. It didn't have a whole lot of landmarks in it.
If you see that one, it's west. In this article in Earth Journal, there's West Hardby and East Hardby. It's actually on two. So look at all the color coding I've done on this. I cross-reference all three of them together because it's just like it's all over the place. And so I use stuff from all three references. It's crazy, but I'm getting ahead of myself.
So you first started doing around 2004.
Yeah.
And it was because you said, we've been adventuring in Greyhawk. I need something different. There needs to be a contrast. We need to do something different.
Yeah.
Now, did you treat Hardby as a city, or did you go the route that happened in the Roger Moore and Brown era, where they said, nope, Hardby's a town. We're gonna reduce it in size, and because and that's kind of and Sean K. Reynolds followed that lead, and the Luby's article follows that lead.
It was acted like a city because we had said the Gynax are still in command. Despeltrix Elena Norbalos is still there, but she's old, right? And Didactrix is Javka Gurnishkir, and there's all that scheming going on for who's going to take her place when she passes. And that's that's where we were, because I really was not a fan of the Hardby merchants coming in, taking over, and all the other, it just, and that's
I can talk about that because there is an evolution of the writing, and this ties into Carl Sargent. This ties to the ejection of Gygax from TSR.
Right.
And I mean, that was the thing that it took me a long time to kind of pull stuff up, because I also trying to look at, well, what was the environment at TSR when this stuff was written? Who was writing it? It actually took the passing of Carl Sargent last year that I got a little bit of information from not a eulogy, but like a remembrance someone put up when it's co-author on the City of Greyhawk set. who kind of talked about working with Carl. And that gave me some insight into what Carl was doing when he first touched Hardby.
Excellent.
And then what he did from the ashes afterwards, when he like had full control over Greyhawk. And that kind of changed what Hardby was. Hardby didn't have a whole lot going on for it in the first edition of the game, because it was basically a place on the map, and there was a brief mention of it in the write-up of the Greyhawk entry in the box set and the folio. And that was kind of it. If you wanted more information, your best bet in first edition, quite frankly, was the Greyhawk Gord the Rogue novels, because there was a reference to Hardby mercenaries in that. Didn't really expand on it, except that they had mercenaries coming from there. And then in the second book, when he was still working at TSR, Artifact of Evil, you had a character from Hardby, and that was why am I forgetting her name right now? I'll have to look at my notes.
That's okay.
Yeah. Anyway, she's a knight of Hardby, so suddenly there's a knighthood around Hardby. Okay.
That I didn't know about still.
Right.
Wow.
Okay, and then and there's like a postscript at the end of that book where she, when she goes back, she becomes a Justicar. So evidently there's Justicars in Hardby. And there's nobility, but there was actually, the name of the Despostrix is not really done until after Gygax is left. That is not filled in until later. And so like there's this whole progression of what officially is written. So so it's interesting. You kind of came in
right in the middle of it.
Right in the middle of it. There's this fan stuff. Roger Moore and Ann Brown had already done their shtick with The Venture Begins and all the other stuff, in that quick. That's 1998. And then Sean K. Reynolds is doing Slavers.
Yep.
And
which is a great reference.
Which is a great reference. Let me back up here a second. So in the history of Greyhawk, we all know that Greyhawk is Gygax's baby from 1974 until he's ejected out of TSR in 1985. And Hardby, as far as I can tell, if there was a reference to it in the original campaign, it was never published. It's not in any of the stories he wrote up in Dragon Magazine or any of the stuff that got published that I can find from the various zines that were out there that he was publishing to before TSR became what it was. And so really the first reference we ever got was the folio in 1979 when that was published. And then in 83, republished in the box set.
Yep.
And there really wasn't much beyond that other than
From the Ashes.
There's the first next mention of it, aside from a throwaway piece in one of the Slavers modules, there is one of the big bads has a silver mine in the hills outside of Hardby. He has a map to it, whether that's actually his or whether he stole it, whatever. So, hey, there's silver mines out in the hills around Hardby, just so you know. Right. So it's really dispersed information. There's not a whole lot there other than the whole idea that Alona is a major religion in Hardby comes from the Gord the Road novels, because Deidre, that's the name of the knight, she is a follower of Alona, and so but we
What's
have
her
no
last
idea.
name? Do we know?
I can't.
She Longland, Havalos, Jonosh, any of the family?
I think it's Longland.
She's a Longland. Oh, Deirdre Longland.
Yeah, Deirdre Longland. Right. So she's the first named person we have from Hardby. Okay, that Longland is the first noble family we know anything about, and we really don't know anything about her. So that's 19. I think Artifact of Evil is like 1985. Just as
just I've never read the Gord novels, and I have her built up a lot, and so the ironies of things, because she's a sponsor for the Throne of Wood to a lot of people in our campaign. Right,
and she shows up because people reference back to that when TSR finally kind of loses the hate for Gygax. Well, not lose the hate, but at least is willing to, instead of joke, publish stuff about Greyhawk, that they were taking it seriously again, and fans were referencing that. And because that novel was still originally under the TSR brand, they could use that name. I don't know the ins and outs of the severance contract that Gygax was forced to sign, but there were certain things that were his, and there were certain things that TSR had access to. And I believe that name was one of them, because she shows up in some of the materials. I know she shows up at least in Luby's article, and she may be in Slavers. I'd have to double check my references. So yeah, I mean, so that's all there. So that this all, this is all connected. So we have the Gygax era, which is not a whole lot of information about it. It's a city on the map, because it's, when you look at that map image that's been flying by there, that's a city mark, a walled city. And because there was no population given from it, you had this random table in your guide, which, by the way, there is a errata for that table.
Here we go. I got it.
Right.
Let me go through.
Yeah. So yeah, that errata, which I'd have to again look up because I don't have it on the tip of my tongue, what issue of Dragon Magazine that's from. That's from Gary Gygax, who said, okay, we made a mistake. Here's the fix. And these are the actual population numbers for cities based on the World of Greyhawk in first edition.
Right. And how many, that probably didn't get out to everyone, because, it's, I don't know if they made the subsequent change in other editions, but I don't recall seeing that. I don't know if it was in an Arthur Cana update or not. I'm not sure where that was.
No, it was only in the Dragon Magazine.
Okay.
And that was it. And it was like this buried little thing. Hey, in the end of an article, and by the way, here's some errata. And you're like,
wow.
Oh, okay. I mean, errata is so different these days, how they handle it. So yeah, so that's kind of, okay. So then we get to the Sargent era.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I don't have names at the tip of his co-writer of that. So there was actually 3 authors in City of Greyhawk, the box set. And this is what I learned from Sargent's death, is that the guy who wrote the first book, which is essentially, the background key for the city, is one guy, and then they go to TSR UK, where Sargent's co-writer is and actually employed by TSR UK, and that was Sargent's first paid gig for TSR. He'd been working for other companies and doing freelance work, but this is like that piece was his introduction. That was kind of like his not resume building piece, but basically got him the job there at TSR. And I have no idea. They wrote it like over a weekend, right?
Nice.
So there was no reference to anything that came before, right? And so they were referring to Hardby as a town. There was no. They said the Despotrics of Hardby, and then it talked about, and because Sargent was interested in the military conflict to come, even in the box set.
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah.
So Hardby, they wrote Hardby. Oh, it's just a military appendage of the City of Greyhawk. It ceased to be its own entity.
I hated it.
Right, and so that carried over into From the Ashes, when he actually did read a lot of the source material. It was very obvious, and he used a lot of that material. But he still said, "Nope, we're gonna just have them taken over." By this Merchants Alliance, and they basically erased the women who were in charge of it for whatever reasons. I can't speak to why. They just did.
What year was that?
Here, let me pull up my little notes. I can tell
Because,
you
like I said, it all is a blur, and it all overcrosses, and it's just a mess. And
right.
it's
So
a
this
shame.
is the transition from first to second edition.
Okay.
And so
you're looking at 1999, 2000, 2001.
Well, actually, what I can tell you is there's these distinct eras, and I broke them out because it'll be easier. So the Gygax era is 1974 to 1985, right? Yeah. For Greyhawk overall. The Call Sargent era starts in 1989 with the City of Greyhawk box set,
which is
wonderful. Then it ends around 1995 when he just disappears off the map. Okay, Roger Moore and Ann Brown revive it with that second, that's what we call the Silver Age of Greyhawk, with those black bordered books,
Right.
From the Ashes.
25th anniversary, all that stuff.
Sorry, the 25th anniversary. Sorry, not From the Ashes, but the Adventure Begins, the Return of the Eight. All those books.
Yeah.
And then Sean K. Reynolds comes in around 2000 with his series of stuff. The Adventures.
Slavers, yeah.
Well, we can talk about the Doom Grinder and.
Oh no.
Anyway,
terrible.
And then at the very end of at the very end of 2000 at Gen Con, they launched the third edition Player's Handbook, and Living Greyhawk Begins, and that starts to be the replacement campaign for Living City.
Got it.
So from about basically 2000 to some point, I wasn't there for the very end of the campaign, so some point in 2008 the campaign ends. So there was a good 7-8 year run there.
Good run. That's a good run.
Yeah, and a lot of stuff got created. Luby's article, for example, is part of that era.
Yep.
So each of these eras has kind of a different flavor and a different effect on what happens to Hardby. So when I can pinpoint the exact moment. Anne Brown's Player's Hand. Oh, what's it? Okay, I'm speaking out of my butt on that one. Just a second here. So in the 2E sources, we go to. So From the Ashes is 1992. That's still Sargent. There's a bunch of stuff in there. Blah blah blah. So Roger Moore and Brown. So Player's Guide to Greyhawk is 1998, and that's where Hardby becomes a town officially. They settle it right there, and they say, nope, it's downgraded to a town. Never was a city. And
No.
Yeah. And so, right. And so if you're going by what is officially published, that's the point where Hardby becomes a town. Now, if you're like me and you take yourself back to the box set or the folio and say, I'm just going to build from that and I'll pick and choose what I want to use, Hardby's a city again, right? And, so like I said, there's like these different pieces. So Sergeant's Lens is military, the Greyhawk Wars, everything is about that. That's the lens. And so Hardby becomes this military outpost of Greyhawk. It doesn't get a whole lot of it. There isn't a whole lot about Hardby in the more Anne Brown stuff. Just, they're just kind of saying, this is what we've decided about it. And I'm sure that had to come off the AOL forums because that's where Roger Moore was. That's his background.
He was around a long time, Roger Moore. He was doing behind-the-scenes stuff. He always did some great Phil Foglio and all that stuff, right?
Well, but Roger Moore was the official Greyhawk contact on the AOL forums. So back in the dark days of the internet. And TSR decided that they were going to cease and desist all fan sites and tell everyone that they had to come on AOL to talk about Greyhawk officially. And so Moore was the point of contact for TSR with all the fans that were on the AOL forums. If you weren't on AOL, sucks to be you. And then in response to that, basically, slaughter of all the fan sites, that's where the Greyhawk mailing list came out of. And that was the underground, essentially, where the fans that didn't want to go on AOL or didn't want to be, whatever, for whatever reason, that's where they went. And there was cross pollination between those groups. But they kept themselves secret because they didn't want a cease and desist letter. They didn't want to get tangled up in TSR's litigious ways at that moment. Yeah. And so, coming out of that in 1998, we have Roger Moore reborning the setting, and there's a little bit in there about Hardby, and it really isn't till 2000 when we get Slavers, and of course Slavers is the point of view from that. So you have some of the military stuff, but really Sean K. Reynolds writes it from the point of view as well. There's these Slavers, and they're going to have people in there, and there's some nice little references in there for that. So you get this whole progression in there. And that's kind of where you come in, because you get Slavers, and then what came after Slavers, which is this piece from Paul Luby that takes the stuff that Sean K. Reynolds did and took it a little bit farther. Yeah. So, for example, the big thing that sticks out to me is there's this half-orc barkeep owner, tavern owner, that has this mysterious green idol enslavers that she has everyone.
Tarnished idol. Yep.
Right. Everyone worships it.
Gador raid.
Right. And then Paul Luby actually defines which gods are associated with that idol. Before it was just whatever you want it to be. And then Living Greyhawk put a stake in the ground because it's a campaign and they have to say something that everybody in the campaign is going to be playing. They said, well, it's these Ulman gods. Right.
Right.
And why is my light blinking? Okay. Anyway.
It was the raid. Set the light off with you too.
Right. Just a second. I'm going to just unscrew
No
that.
problem. As you do that,
bothering the heck out of me.
As you do that, what I'll do is I'm going to talk about where we are in our campaign, what we just did.
Sure.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
So everyone knows who watched Naz Rocks. We finished up on Thursday night with Michael Baton's Revenge. Okay. And we'll go back to adventure 835. And 835 was called Power Play in Hardby. It's up at the bottom now. There's a big meeting there's one representative from all the houses of Hardby. Turns out Javka Gurnerskir, the Didatrix, is missing. Okay. Her ship, which was named the Courageous, is lost. And they think it crashed somewhere near the outskirts of the ruins of Cantona. And if you know anything about Cantona, which... magic doesn't work there, or magic fizzles out there. So, and that's what's going on in the lower right. And this is Adventure 835. They go, the adventuring group, which is named the Hardby Irregulars, the top-rated mercenary group in ours, gets asked to go by them, and then Michael Baton shows up, everyone's favorite. And let me be facetious when I say this. Michael Baton is the most hated player character in the entire campaign. Mark runs him. By far. See the picture here now? There's a crashed ship. There's a destroyed ship. Turns out his adventuring group, the Furies, went on this mission earlier and were sent off the books. They hit a mine. They blew up. All his people in his mercenary group were killed, but one other. He wasn't there. He was out of town. Did not know about this. He went on this ship right now that we see in the lower right hand corner with the Hardby Irregulars to rescue whoever they could. There's bodies of all his members all over the place. It was a slaughter fest. This is Adventure 835, Power Play in Hardby. So eventually they find Javka Gurnerskir. They bring her back. Michael Baton's group, the Furies, are basically no more in Greyhawk. Now that was 14 adventures ago. I bounce around a lot. We all know that.
Yeah.
You know. So come to that rip. The Furies are no more. They're gone. Michael Baton, Mark's character, who he plays very well. He's a specialty priest of Zilchis. Everyone hates him because he makes people pay for healing. So, which would drive anyone. Look at Naz. Which would drive anyone crazy in an adventuring party. So,
So off camera, I'll have to tell you the story of my second edition specialty priest of Toth. And
of knowledge.
The story of the half ogre who I wouldn't heal that actually had a player character nearly come across the table and to strangle me. But we'll do that not here because it has nothing to do with Greyhawk.
Well, it's probably a good story too. So
yeah. But Michael Baton sounds like my character was annoying for different reasons. So Michael Baton is the most hated, and this is hated by the other players.
By all the other players at the table, they despise this character, and Mark plays him great. Well, Mark hired an adventure we did the last 2 Thursdays called Michael Baton's Revenge, number 849. Michael hired the Hiltless Swords, which is a lower level group, to seek revenge on who he thinks set up his group and had them all killed. And he believes it's Alida Norbalos, everyone who hates. Alida is the evil judge. She's evil personified in Hardby. So what happened?
At least in your campaign.
In my campaign, absolutely, because she's scheming with the slavers. She's scheming with a lot for power. Mm-hmm. So, and this is the group right here. This is the Hiltless Swords. The Hiltless Swords go on this mission. They find a secret cove, and Michael tells them 3 things. They have a ship named the Heroine. You are to, and that ship is regularly seen in Hardby. You are to sink it. You are to destroy it, scuttle it completely. Number 2, you are to kill everyone you find there. Just kill them. Number 3, there's a box, the captain's special, box where she keeps her logs, keeps all her information, has a seal on it. I want that returned to me. I want it returned with the seal. And if you do the first two things, you get 5,000 gold. You do the second thing, you get 5,000 gold. If anything happens between any of them, you don't get any money. So they went. They were success. Yes, typical. Yes, Michael.
Because why not have a simple plan when you can complicate it so it's all wrong? Yeah.
It was brilliant. And Mark plays
Yeah.
Michael. Now remember, Michael's not on this adventure. Michael hired them to go on this adventure. So here
Right.
we are. Here
He's
they are.
he's a patron. Yeah.
Yes, here they are setting up this adventure in the bar, and we got one other minor thing going on. And what I love is I took this bar is the Plow and the Stars. It's out of this.
Yeah.
This reference is great. So if anyone gets Earth Journal 10, it's on Greyhawk Online. You can download it off Earth Journal 10, guys, and find out all this information on Hardby. There's one major errata in this, which I'll talk about later on. It's a shame, but it's easy to fix. So they are successful, but, and Walt was sick. He wasn't there. They found a bunch of, it turns out this ship was being doubled as a slaver ship, the Heroine. Out of Hardby. They found yellow sails in it. They found 10 slaves. Well, Michael shows up. Michael has a mirror mental prowess, so he can scry on people and then step through. Just, it's a great crystal ball. He steps through and goes, I'm not paying anything. You didn't kill everyone. And they're like, you want us to kill the slaves? He goes, yeah, slaves can talk.
Oh
so, yes. Well, he's lawful neutral.
What's his alignment?
Lawful neutral.
Not anymore.
He's lawful neutral. Well, so
yeah, not anymore.
One of the party, my NPC Joanna Tesley, she's an inquisitor of Ouija. She goes, "This was classic, Joanna." So she said, "This is me playing her. First of all, they're losers. They got captured. They can't protect themselves. If we set them free and take them back to their where they live, they're just going to get captured as slaves again. We're putting them out of their misery, right?" That's what she said. But the rest of the party,
lawful evil.
Tiger's lawful evil. The rest of the party goes, "We're not killing the slaves, not at all. We're not doing it." So an argument ensues for about 15 minutes at game time. This is after the fight was over. It turns out, and Walt, you weren't there, but you may have watched it. It turns out they had 2 sets of sails in their ship. They had yellow sails for the slavers, actually 3, the white sails up. And they also had, Walt, you better be listening, they also had pink sails with a red moon on it. And in my campaign, that's the Amazons of the Crimson Moon. It's a feminine organization determined to take down mankind, basically, to corrupt man. And they've been in existence for 40 years in game time. So now there's all sorts of confusion going on. Who's the ship belong to? So I threw that wrench in there. But they turned out they didn't kill the slaves. There's Tim. Hey, Tim. I'm glad you hopped on. Now Tim's 40 years in the campaign as well, so he understands all this fun stuff. Hops on, comes in. There's about to be a fight start because the one guy's like, "We ain't killing these slaves." And Michael's going, "We ain't getting any money then, right?" So I had to play peacekeeper with my dwarf. He's lawful good. He's a dwarf sea man named Janik, and he says, "Well, let's split the difference. Give us 2,500 for that. Give us the 5,000 for the box. We'll scuttle the ship. We'll free the slaves. We'll do whatever." And so we made nice. You like that? You like that, Josh? The Amazons of the Crimson Moon. If you want to share that, if you want to use that in your campaign, you're more than welcome to. Just get with me, and I'll tell you all about it. Walt's favorite organization. So that's where we are. So Michael has the information that's probably damning to Alita Norbalos. They've scuttled a ship, the Heroine, which has been in which is regularly seen in Hardby. Someone owns it in Hardby, and then changes the sails as they go out, and it acts as a slaver ship. Now there's this Amazons of the Crimson Moon bit thrown in. It's just like Hardby. It's a jumbled mess of backstabbing and intrigue, and that's what I love about it. And that's where Brian's like, "Oh my God." Walt, they saved the sail. They didn't want to save the whole sail because if you got caught with the sails on your ship, the Sorcière, someone would say, "Oh, you guys are the slavers." You didn't want to have this. They kept the piece with the big moon on it for you, Walt, for Tyra.
So using the old man voice from The Simpsons, that's a hanging.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Brian, you can see there's a lot of fun going on in my campaign. There's a lot of backstabbing. There's a lot of double crosses. There's a lot of people that aren't really liked, but that's the way it should be. It's not always good against evil. It's good against not good, against somewhat good, against I don't know if they're good or not. or their self, and that's where, and that's what I love about Hardby.
So that reminds me, Gary Gygax would always get onto the forums as Colonel Plato, and so there's like a whole long thing where he talks about various game things on EN World, and he was on the Pied Piper forums when that was a thing, which was Rob Kuntz's old company and forums he had. And someone asked him, so who kidnapped Prince Thrommel?
Oh, jeez.
And so Gygax shot back, well, Nyron did that through the Scarlet Brotherhood. Everyone went, what? And he said, yeah, Furiani and Nyron are ostensibly on the side of good, but they're rivals economically and militarily, and they didn't want to see that alliance between Voluna and Furiani come to fruition. That would weaken them. And, or at least in their minds it did. And so, that makes a certain level of sense. There was a lot of, good doesn't necessarily mean you don't have self-interest, that you won't do bad things, for the greater good. It might call into question what your actual alignment is at some point if you are into alignment, in your games. But yeah, it's your game sounds like a really twisted hot mess of player.
Oh my God! You just said hot mess. One of our viewers has hot mess tattooed on his back right now. Sorry, Walt. But you know what, Brian? That's what my guys, and I'll say this. I know we were talking about this on Discord earlier today. I got to put Tim's head up. Tim was talking about how he wants to kill Michael Baton, so I used 4 of his own head, the critical hit head, for Michael. It's, you gotta have fun with what you're doing, and I said this in Discord to someone who was asking a lot of questions, who seems to be a little lost. I think we know what we're talking about on the chat in general that's been going on the last couple days. I think there's someone who's pretty new, and I said to him, you've done well as a dungeon master if your players keep coming back and wanting more and more content, right? That's how you know you're successful. They love your stories, and they love your content, and they actually start saying, hey, giving you ideas, and I think that's how where that you've made it in your own game. So
some of the best ideas I've ever taken credit for have come from my players.
Absolutely.
If someone comes up with a idea that blows anything I could think of out of the water, whatever I wrote before that, gone. I'll that's so much cooler, and I might embrace and extend on it. But yeah, I mean, if your people are engaged enough to think of something and come up with a cooler conspiracy than you ever could, oh yeah, let's go there.
Well,
that'll be fun.
Getting back to the Michael Baton thing, I had nothing to do with making that character up. That was all Mark from day one. And that character has entwined himself in the politics of Hardby. Now, here's another thing that's going on. One of the other characters who's a member of the Assassin's Guild. Okay,
Greyhawk Assassin's Guild, or this is a Hardby Assassin's
This is a Hardby. Hardby has a little sect of bounty hunters and assassins, a small one. Nothing like Greyhawk.
Okay.
He's a Shadow Mage too. He's a multi-class Shadow Mage assassin. It's basically a playtest thing, but I always say that. I always make excuses for Bill. He has decided he hates Michael so much he's going to put it out in the worse that Michael has gotten all this information about, and that he's the one that's throwing out all this stuff, and he was responsible for the heroine's downing. So he's going to rat him out on the worse. So we're going to see where this goes now, but that's where we are present day in Hardby. The Spotrix is close to dying after all this time. They've kept her alive for a long time. I'm holding off on all-out war because I don't like all-out war. I like intrigue war more. I like the behind-the-scenes stuff. I think you probably do too, more than the Carl Sargent way of doing things. I like the behind-the-scenes stuff, where thieves are going at each other and people getting assassinated and political moves are being made. I prefer that over armies coming in, so.
Well, there's something to be said for a big event thing like where things come to a head militarily, economically, whatever, and there's a big change. Because I think we kind of talked about this in Discord, like a steady state. Well, maybe we didn't talk about this, but this concept of the steady state world, where you have this kind of static. This is the way things are, and eventually you have to kind of shake that up every once in a while. Not just to shake it up, but because that's just not how the world operates. There is, people push and push and push, and eventually there's a breaking point, and something happens, and then a new norm gets established after this tumult. And that can be a really interesting thing to play out with characters, depending on who you got. And it sounds like you have a bunch of schemers and plotters and whatnot, and so, that's a great way for really subtle plans to go suddenly very awry. Is if things go hot and suddenly we can't hide in the shadows anymore, or or we might get stomped. And so there's a place for that. It's not in every campaign. It really depends on what your players want and what you want out of the campaign. And like I know you had them building fortresses along the border, and if you built those fortresses and you had nothing to defend against, that's boring. So obviously you've been throwing humanoids against them, and then there's intrigues from the principality coming the other way.
Absolutely.
So right. So it isn't like everything is static in your world. Things
change. Things change.
Right.
And you and I talked about this. Could you talk about what you're going to do about the word canon? I mean, I like the idea.
It's not so much what I'm doing about the world. I've just made a conscious decision that I know ironies of irony, since I run the Cannon Fire Facebook group as the lead admin.
Yeah.
I've just really moved away from the word canon, because there's a certain conceptual framework around that word, that there is something that's established and true, and then everything else is heretical, right? Yep. And and so you have this piece up here from Steve Winter and Alan Hammermack, and this is from the box set, and there's a version of this in the folio that basically says, "Hey, we created all this stuff. Now go use it in any which way you can. Bend it, mangle it.
That's it.
Do what you will. It's yours to create." And I think
right there it is, right there. It's up.
Right. It's up. And I think we've lost sight of that sometimes. And I certainly know I have. I mean, there is this tendency, especially I'm a history major. And so there's this tendency, like, I love the lonely fun of reading stuff and cataloging and like looking at the histories. That has nothing to do with what happens at the table. Right?
Yeah.
Players don't care about quote unquote canon. So I talk about published sources, because has a less freight associated with it. It's much more true, right? The published sources also can encompass stuff that isn't TSR. You can say, well, these are the official published sources from TSR WotC. Okay, that's right. One group. And here is the fan created materials from Cannon Fire and all these blogs and websites, and you can pick and choose what you want, because I subscribe to the idea that Greyhawk is whatever Greyhawk you decide to run. That's just one in a multitude in the multiverse of Greyhawks that are out there. There's all these alternate realities, and so your Greyhawk is going to be very different from mine, and Anna's is going to be different from yours and mine, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be the same thing. We can share resources, we can share ideas, but what happens at our tables is what happens at our tables. We are not playing Living Greyhawk where we're all in the same campaign.
Which would have driven me crazy back in the day too, by the way. But that's okay, because of the way our play style is. It had nothing to do with anyone else's. But
and I'm a big proponent of player agency. Like, if a player comes up with a good idea or a player does something, I want it to have an impact on the world. If I'm so worried about defending canon and what was true and what was published, that becomes a straitjacket rather than a springboard for ideas.
Absolutely.
So like for me, for instance, in my vision of my Hardby campaign, because I haven't launched it yet, I'm going to go back to 576 CY. Anything that comes published after that is fair game for me to take ideas from, but I am not bound by that timeline. It's going to be whatever my players decide to do. And some of what's going to happen in my Hardby campaign will be based on what characters get created and some ideas from the players. And then I'll have some plots that I'm going to set in motion. And then whatever they pick up on, whatever they decide to run with, yeah, that's going to be for the primary focus what the players are doing, and I might have a couple things percolating in the background, but really I want to see where they take it.
Thank you so very much for that follow. Thank
Yeah.
you. You are absolutely correct. Now, while we have a lot of viewers on, I want to hit something up real quick. Pop in real quick, Brian, if you don't mind. All right. So everyone knows this Thursday is our next stratagem giveaway. Real quick, this is the Dungeon Masters Essential Kit. We're giving this away to a lucky subscriber. The tiles, Master's Tome, which is a DM screen, and 5 sets of dice from Wiz Dice, which come with it, and also health trackers. And then to 2 followers, we're giving away a DM screen. All right.
Cool.
So, all right, that's a nice raid, Missy. Thank you so very much. So, just wanted to throw that out there. I'll do it again at the end, but since we have so many on, but just so you know that Stratagem's been a great second sponsor of our site, along with Miniature Building Authority. So now back to our thank you, Missy TTV, with another raid, second raid of the night.
I'm sorry, I never understood the whole raid thing.
Oh, it's a channel that just finished up. So instead of just breaking up all the viewers, they raid into another channel and watch them.
Oh,
it's a good thing, man. It's a good thing.
That's right.
That's an awesome thing.
Yeah, welcome to the chat. So it's very interesting to me how so you came kind of late into Hardby, and so you're using a lot of material that I saw as it came out, and and I actually there were some adventures written in Living Greyhawk set in Hardby late in the game, and I didn't actually play those because they were part of a Bright Desert themed piece that they were doing. And, with Rary the Trader, which is in their timeline.
Yeah, Rary the Trader. This is Walt's on. Not a quick Rary the Trader story. We never ran out of module ever. Rary's still out there on his own. Robbelar's left him because we did Expedition to Ruins of Greyhawk. Robbelar got turned back to his normal self because the story in there is the mirror changed him and all that stuff. Won't ruin it for everyone, but the real Robbelar is back now after all these years in our campaign. But Walt has a character named What's that?
He's still lawful evil.
Yeah, he is, but he's not a dick. He may be an asshole, he's not a dick, what they say.
Right.
So, Missy, thank you so very much, Missy. I'll check your channel out after the broadcast tonight, and then I really appreciate it. Thank you so very much. This is our Sunday night talk show, and I got the great legendary Bryan Blumklotz from Greyhawk does Greyhawk heraldry. Come on, man! The heraldry up you see, Bryan created for my campaign, and I use it everywhere. I use it everywhere. On my Stratagem new DM screen, it's on my DM screen now. His heraldry, our Order of Ulic symbols. Look at that, brand new. Yeah. It's a customizable screen. I put it all right on there. So,
this is all Bryan's. I'm really honored that you loved what I did for you, but I will say it goes both ways. You inspired me with the stories of your group, and I suggested some things, but the reality is that the herald is only as good as the story behind it, and that's the hardest part. I mean, the image stuff is the easiest part, unless there's like some technical thing I got to solve in terms of creating an image,
right?
Because I have a great image library. The ideas behind it that make it interesting and personal is the hard part, and you made it really easy. I mean, I literally banged out those shields in day and a half at the most.
They're so distinctive. I mean, and they're on Anna's map. Anna embedded them into her maps for us, so thank you, Anna, for that as well. Oh yeah, they're on they're on the maps now. So it's just it's going. There's Anna smiling, and like I said, you even have Lord Gazumba mouse pads with your logo on it now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so we're coming a long way in 10 months.
Yeah. So you see that big shield in the middle of the screen right now. That's
the Hardby symbol that Bryan created. Talk about it.
Yeah, so I want to talk a little bit about that. Now, this is not officially published piece. This is a fan piece by me, because I realized Hardby didn't have its own coat of arms. It's never had its own coat of arms. The one that you see on the maps from the Ashes, that is for the Hardby Marines, which is a Greyhawk military unit, and it is not Hardby's.
Yep.
And so I was like, why don't they have their own shield? Because I mean, that's
Yep.
been so important. Like, of all the places on the map that doesn't have a shield, why don't they have a shield? And so I decided to create one for them, and that's what I created, and it's pretty distinctive. And I felt like it was different enough, and having that visual representation is just so important to the game because it defines. There's a story behind it. Now, I don't really tell a story about why I chose all those elements, because I want other people to be inspired by it to make up their own stories about why that shield is the way it is. Now, I will say that the lotus that you see on that split shield there is something that I conceptualize as coming a symbol from the Sul Imperium. And what it means and what it is, that's up for you to decide.
I think it's beautiful. That piece, it's simple, blue and white, very crisp. It's beautiful, and I know Anna loves it. She put it right on her map. She loves it so much. So
I really raced to get that done so I could make it in time.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, that was one of those ones where I've been thinking about it, and then I found the right image because there isn't really a lotus in my collection, and I found the right lotus, and I made some adjustments on it, and then I put that together and went, oh wow, that looks amazing. And that to me, heraldry can have a real powerful. That's the thing that drew me in when I bought the folio back in 19.
I know all the little
1979, 1980.
You're like, wow, look at it.
Yeah, and I know all those seals around the border.
Oh, it was awesome. It was so exciting.
Yeah. Young me was like, "What's that?"
Yeah,
and it was great to read the stories about the kingdoms and all that. But God, what are those? And then I realized each one of those corresponded. So when I could correct that horrible error of not having an arms for Hardby, that's why I did that. And that's kind of my gift to the community. So was happy to do that. And now there's a thing that marks that on the map. That is not, so if you're not doing the Greyhawk Wars, if you don't have the Hardby Marines sitting in the harbor, you now have a symbol, for that city or town, depending on how you conceptualize it.
And it is beautiful, and it just goes right in. If you notice, I included that all in our scroller tonight with all the other stuff going on. And if I had an Order of Ulick presence in Hardby, there isn't any. I would ask you to do one for Hardby too, but there isn't any. So that's the Greyhawk City one up right now, and where there is an Order of Ulick presence, but there is none in Hardby, and that's another thing with our group in Hardby. And I'll divulge off and talk about a little bit about that with our mercenary groups. I don't think there's a single member of the Order of Ulick. Correct me, Walt. Anyone else is on? Tim. I don't think there's any, not one. So it's one of the few places on our world that our main campaign focus, the Order of Ulick, which is not have any effect on anything, which is kind of interesting when you think about it. We're all over the place with that unit except for Hardby. All the characters in that city are all basically running along on their own, doing their own things, which is kind of cool when you think about it. It's a little pocket of its own, little story things going on, which is I like I said, that's why I like it. It's a change up. Greyhawk is Greyhawk. Greyhawk is all the big names are there. Morningkin is there.
Greyhawk is Lankamar on steroids.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of it's a kleptocracy disguised as a free city.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
So, but Hardby's got its own little flavor to it. If you don't taint it with the the merchants are running it now, and they kept the throne of wood sitting there doing nothing. It just doesn't make sense to me.
No. So basically, in the original incarnation of Hardby, as it's referenced, is they pay tribute to the city of Greyhawk to not be reabsorbed. So they're independent. They are, they're not a free city because they're not marked that way, but they are not completely subservient to Greyhawk in the folio and in the box set. And so there's this weird kind of symbiotic relationship, and all the other connections that are between. The whole thing about how Zaggy the wizard is connected to Hardby, that all comes later. right? And I don't know if that's Gygax or not. I haven't really found anything where Gygax said that. I think that's.
They just threw it in there.
I think that I'm not sure who.
There's
is
Michael
the
Baton,
genesis of
guys.
that. Nice. Die, Michael, die.
Michael was made by Mark at through ForgeWorks, which is a custom 3D printing company. He did that at Gen Con last year, got the figure sent months later, and then built a Mastercrafter, painted it just for the last 2 weeks, and that's the figure up right now.
Nice. So it's very interesting. So you have a lot of intrigue there. One of the interesting things for me is like I've been trying to figure out, like, for me, the way I conceptualize Hardby is it has to be a contrast to Greyhawk, because that is the dominant metropolis in that area. And you have this other city, and they have a symbiotic relationship because they're the deep water port that Greyhawk isn't. Because you have fords going across the Seltaran River, and so they can get flat bottom boats up there, but you can't get a deep sea merchant up that river to Greyhawk City. So that kind of traffic, the stuff that's coming from other lands, on the big seagoing vessels that aren't part of coast hugger, galley type, shallow draft boats, they're coming into Hardby and offloading there, and either offloading and then being reloaded onto stuff or going across the land. But Greyhawk sits on the choke point to the rest of the lands in Greyhawk. So Hardby has to deal with them, right?
Yeah.
But Greyhawk absolutely needs Hardby because of that deep water port.
Absolutely.
Right. So why hasn't Greyhawk just gone in and absorbed them? And that was a question that's been plaguing me. Because they have the economic might. They probably, if they would get off their lazy butts, have the military might to just walk in and take over. Right? But at what cost? What is it going to cost them to do that? And so I was like thinking, so why would ostensibly a city of magic using noble women not have something to deal with that? And I think, and so one of the plots I'm coming up with, so one of the secrets that will be in my campaign is the first Despotrix had a vision sent to her by the Ruby sorceress Weejoss. And the reason that they're in that harbor, aside from the fact that it's a nice natural harbor, is it's a natural basin to collect magic power. And they're going to have a reservoir of power they've been collecting over the last couple hundred of years that's needed for some future event. And they're jealously guarding that. You can tell them that you're going to pay tribute, but if you try to take over, they will resist that. They will make that not happen because they have to be there. That's their main goal. They don't really care about all this other political stuff. They're there guarding that. And so that gives me a reason why the Gynarchy does what it does. It doesn't seem to make sense. They have their own internal logic about what they're doing. They're willing to make deals to keep the peace because they don't want to be pushed off their mission, right? And it's all secret, So that's my concept of Hardby's ruling class and what they're doing, and how and why they're so focused on that, and that the merchant stuff is really just that pays the bills. They're not really, that's not really their main focus, right?
No,
they're not gonna have a huge navy. They're not gonna have huge colonies out there. They'll do trade. They're gonna accept that mercantile stuff. That's not really what they're interested in, and so that to me gives me a something to hang my hat on with Hardby and why they do the things they do, and who's in the know and who isn't.
There are a lot of characters that we've developed, and I'll give you a couple, and then let's see if you know anything about them. Let's start with Alita Norbalos, of course. I mean, she's like the main antithesis in our campaign. She's allied with the slavers now secretly. She's doing all sorts of things behind the scenes. There's a nice picture of her. And let me give credit. It's Wayne Reynolds, by the way.
Right. And I have a quick...
There you go. There's Alita.
Right. So I have a quick question for you about her. So in the slavers story, she's pissed off that the nobility of Hardby is kowtowing to Greyhawk. And so for her, she's not ideological about slaves. She just sees them as a means to an end, which is screw Greyhawk. And if that's how she set up Enslavers. You didn't do Greyhawk Wars per se.
We
right?
did, but here's what we did, and we took it one step further. That power corrupts, right? So
Right,
we
right.
have it that she has now gotten a taste of this power working with the slavers and has decided. Remember, she's up for main despotrix now, right? Her name's being thrown around in that, and this is her move is now to squeeze out a lot of these factions.
But what was her original motivation in your campaign for allying with the slavers?
To stick it to Greyhawk at first.
Stick it to Greyhawk at first, but it's now morphed into I see the benefits of all this and I want to be in charge.
Plus, the main adventuring group in our campaign, the Hardby Irregulars, have a lot of Longlands, and that's another family, and Gurnish skiers, which are kind of against the Norbalos family. So, and they are worshippers of Mayaheen, and there's three main deities. There's Mayaheen, Ilana. I know you say it a little differently, and
we all say things differently.
And Ouija. So there's three, and they're Mayaheen worshippers, and a lot of the player characters in the Hardby Irregulars follow that Longland Mayaheen philosophy, and they really butted heads right off the bat with the Norbaloses and Elita factions. I've gone in deep into analyzing all the 6 different families, which consist of, if anyone wants to know, here we go: the Norbalos, Gurnish Skier, Longland, Janash, Havalos, and Mainam. Now we have characters strewn out through all 6 families, mostly females, in the entire campaign in Hardby. Now, if you ever watched one of our very first adventures we ever streamed, and that was about Knuckle Paler, this pirate female, her name turned out to be Shannon Mainam. She was actually a Mainam and got bored and became a pirate and was out causing trouble to all the shipping lanes, and they captured her, brought her back for trial. Her mother, Shen Mainam, got her off, so she served a year house arrest, and then they had to do all and then she got her ship back in the end and went off and is still out raiding again, more south. She's staying away from Hardby for the time being. And this is the kind of stuff that, I made these characters up, but the Mainams, Janashes, all sorts of, and it's fun because you can really show that there's a lot of underhanded goings on in the city. So let me get a picture of her. And I'm sorry, I don't know who I can give credit to this. I should find out. But this is a picture of Knuckle Paler, a Shannon Mainam. Here it comes. I think that's her right there. Okay, that's her picture of Knuckle Paler, because she likes torturing people by breaking their knuckles. So.
Well, there's some really great reverse image lookup tools out there where you can throw that image in, and it will usually find the original piece.
Okay.
We'll talk about that offline.
Sure.
And because that's what I use when I'm trying to find out who did that. Because I don't want to.
I always try and give credit to everyone.
Right.
You don't want to.
I mean, sometimes you just can't find it because if that's like a little snip of a larger piece, sometimes you just can't find it. But usually you can find the breadcrumbs that get you to the original piece.
Now Tim's chomping at the bit. Oh, hey, Geek, how are you? Tin Eye's good for reverse backup too. That's true, Geek Dice. I really want to find out who did that and give them credit for that. Now, all these are from the Slavers. Are Wayne Reynolds? Is that Sean's brother or relative of Sean Reynolds? Wayne Reynolds did. It says War 99. They're all Wayne Reynolds from the Slavers. Taking out that. All right, I know Tim's on, and I want to get this while Tim's going on.
Sure.
We have a murder mystery going on right now as a sidebar in Hardby, and I want to talk about that. Okay, this is all right. So. We go to the favorite hangouts of a lot of the mercenary groups, particularly the Hiltless Swords. And I'm going to scan through this real quick. It's called The Plow and the Stars. And it's in this reference, again, out of the Earth Journal. Now, I've taken it one step further, of course. That's in The Plow of the Stars. All right, there's The Plow and the Stars.
So this is a particular tavern?
Yes. Now, The Plow and the Stars, Pedre Gastor, the proprietor, likes to set up his barmaids with wealthy adventurers. Now, I just happen, you're my age, you'll know this. I happen to name them the following: Sabrina, Kelly, Jill, Chris, and Tiffany.
I think I'm alone now.
Yeah, they're all Charlie's Angels names of all the
Oh
characters from
wow!
Charlie's
I was
Angels, right?
thinking pop music.
So
Yeah,
yeah, from that TV show in the 70s.
right.
You know, um, Tim's character, Tim has a daughter, I'm sorry, a brother and sister that are siblings of a character out of basically ancient lore in our game, and they're hiding out in Hardby, and they're under hidden names. Well, Hugo Stiglitz is the guy, the son, obviously that's stolen from the Glorious Bastards, but Hugo has started dating Sabrina, one of the brunettes, and went off, and then it was getting kind of was dating her a lot, and then she disappeared. So no one knew what happened to her. Well, it turns out they were looking for her. Padraig asked some of the members of the Hiltless Swords to find her, and one of Alan's characters, Vinitha, made a really bad off-color joke to him and really angered him and upset him. Michael Baton was there. Michael volunteered to go find out what happened to her. Right, so that's his stage name. Yes, so he finds out. Well, they find her body. She's been murdered, tortured, with the word "no" dug into her body all over the place. No, 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 1,000 times, like it was personal. So they found the body of Sabrina. No one knows who did this horrible deed. In the last adventure, Hugo is now dating the other brunette, Kelly. That's the Jacqueline Smith character, right? From this. So now, yes, and now Tim's not very happy with me doing this, but Tim, you gave me the idea initially. So yeah, Michael Baton didn't do it, Tim. So Tim knows who did it, but no one else did. So our sidebar is barmaids from the Plow and the Stars are dropping and being kidnapped, tortured, and then murdered. So we'll have to find out what is happening to them in Hardby. So a little side quest thing going on.
So, would you? So I've been reading about this thing where we talk about mysteries are hard to do in
They
D&D
are.
because if you give away too many clues early, the mystery evaporates.
Yes.
And then if you give too few, the players get frustrated because they can't figure anything out, or they just completely blow past it. So one of the things I've been doing is I tend not to do a lot of central mysteries. I don't rely on them as kind of like the fuel for the campaign.
No, this is a sidebar as other adventures are going on, right?
Right.
So this is happening. Yeah, this is a side quest. The other adventure went on, Michael Baton's Revenge, and this is going on the side.
Okay. So what is the central tension
Good question.
for your Hardby campaign? Is it the conflict between Greyhawk and Hardby? Is it the slavers? Is it something else?
It's the following. The Throne of Wood, basically the womanhood organization, there's usually 40 to 50 members, it runs Hardby or makes decisions. They elected despotrics. Within that, there are sponsors, and I have some of them actually written down here, and Deirdre Longland is one of them from the books. Hunter, okay, so she's sponsored a couple members. Hunter Havalos, a ranger, has sponsored a couple of members. Francine Debornay, the second, the guild assistant of the college. There is a College of Magic in Hardby. She has sponsored some members, and even Alita Norblos has sponsored one or two members from some adventuring groups. So
now, are these NPCs or PCs?
Those are NPCs sponsoring PCs.
Okay.
Within that, there's who is going to, the big thing is who's going to replace the despotrics with. Everyone's waiting for her to pass.
Right.
And Alita's become very sinister at snuffing out competition. She saw the Furies. No, I'm giving away some secrets, but that's okay. She saw the Furies as up in.
You can never keep a secret, Jay.
Yeah, I know. So she kind of set them up. She actually was responsible for what happened to Javkik Erneshir's mission to Safeton, the ship, with the slave. Yeah, they waylaid the ship. They had to go rescue her. In the meantime, let's get rid of a mercenary group as well at the same time. That's kind of she doesn't like. So she killed 2 birds with 1 stone in that adventure. In Adventure 8, number 35, Power Play in Hardby. Now the name makes sense, right?
Right.
But they rescued Javka Gurnishkir. So it's a lot of political intrigue and tension. It's not a big Greyhawk versus Hardby thing, but there is a war going on behind the scenes. The Greyhawk Thieves Guild is trying to eliminate the Hardby Thieves Guild and move in. That is going on as well. Bill, who's not on, says Sharkscore and Bill, the Master Crafter, actually has a plant in one of the groups from the Hardby Thieves Guild. I'm sorry, the Greyhawk Thieves Guild, giving away something else, guys, but that's okay. Spying on the Hardby Thieves Guild. You like this? Like this is going.
I just love that you can't keep a secret.
Oh, that's okay. That's what shows are for, though.
I know. Well, and the great thing is your players, if they're good, are not going to play into that knowledge. They're going to ignore it.
But I want the audience to be to share it so they can feel a part of it, because a lot of people jump onto our game and they go, "Oh my God, look at the terrain!" And then they ask us right in the middle of I'm playing and I can't answer it because I'm DMing. What's the story behind it? And and so this is the great place to tell the story behind it in these shows, so that people get a feel, especially if you haven't jumped in lately. Okay, so Sprocketeer says the picture of Knuckle Paler is Hongo Kang, and thank you very much. Imgur Gallery, thank you.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So
we should see if they have a. Why am I blanking again? God, my brain is just not firing on all cylinders.
Sprocketeer, thank you, and I'll send he or she a thank you that I used it. I used it as someone, and I'll ask because I haven't put it out for I'm not. I never do stuff for profit like that. That's not my place. But that's that I was like, this is perfect picture. So
just see if they have a deviant art site.
It said Imgur.
It's an Imager. Yeah, it's an Imager gallery.
Yeah.
But you should see if that particular person has a deviant art site, because usually that's a great way to get a hold of artists, and you can seek permission to use some of their stuff, or get it cheap. Like I know that, for instance, people have gone to DeviantArt, asked, said how much would it cost me to use it, and like they get a cover for their book for $15. That's really, really cheap considering what usually an art order costs.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it can't hurt to run that down. So I will say, kind of swinging back to this whole den of scum and villainy. Yeah, it's interesting because you have a lot of things in motion. Some of it's put in motion by your players, which is awesome.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Some of it is NPC driven from you.
Yes.
But that it becomes this kind of organic thing, and it's all going to reach some sort of crescendo when the Despotrix dies and the power plays really when it gets real. And
exactly. And what I tend to do with this, Brian, is I hit a momentous occasion, I call it, where something I've been playing for 15, 20 years, I finally do it. Like when Salen and a member of the he's a Clark Necromancer, finally downed the crown of Ruggiero Blood Moon and became this megalomaniac, and it was a major event. I throw them in occasionally. Eventually she will die, and I'll throw that in Hardby. And a whole hell will break loose, but it's not ready yet.
Yeah.
You get those whims, you know what I mean, and then you're like, this is the time, this is the place to do it. So
there'll be a good story out of it. It's gonna things have reached a certain point, and it just you just have to release the tension.
Yes, exactly. But right now, because think about this. I've only been streaming 10 months now, maybe 11.
Mm-hmm.
We're building up I'm running stories that we're building up to this, to a lot of things. Michael Baton's Revenge Thursday night was unbelievable. Everyone was all excited about it. They loved the ending. They loved, wow, man, he got what he wanted in the end. All this, it's just like, it turns out that I want to keep that going. And when we do the big thing, we'll do it. We'll tie it into a fundraiser, or we'll tie it into something cool. We'll tie it into a community thing we've done before. That's what I like to do with a big, like we did with the fundraiser event when we did the Miracle the Chaotic and the Orb of the Dragonkind. I'll do something momentous on. You know what I mean? We'll run 20-hour stream or something, and then we'll do some big, we'll tie it in that way. Because you got to think about what you're doing now online with
Mm-hmm.
your subscribers that are giving you something of theirs every month, and you want to make them excited about it. And you can see by like Naz putting Glory Be 100 times in, he loves Michael Baton because he
Right.
knows that everyone else hates Michael Baton. So
So here, I'm going to
Yeah.
give you a little piece. I've been kind of my
got my notes.
RPG, my role playing game net has been going a little wider. I've been really coming back to Traveler, a game I used to play when I was a kid.
Awesome.
And there's another game I discovered while I was researching stuff called Stars Without Number that is kind of like a combination of OSR, D&D, and the Traveler skill system mashed together into a science fiction game. And it's very sandboxy, and it has some great tools in it. And one of them, which is this faction thing that the author does. I'm sorry, his name escapes me. It's available on Drive-Thru RPG. There's a free version of it.
What's the name of it? One more time. I'm going to write it
It's
down.
called Stars Without Number.
Can you
And I
put
think-
it into the box too for everyone online? If you Stars Without Number.
Stars
Okay.
Without Number.
Okay,
But there's
cool.
some great tools in there. I mean,
There you go.
obviously
Sprocket knows
it's aimed at science fiction, but one of the things is they have this thing called the faction turn, and it's a DM tool
Mhm.
where you have your factions and they have wealth or power and stealth, and these three in different numbers based on the size of the organization and where they are. And what it does is allows them to purchase resources and then kind of mess with each other. And what it does, because it's not you direct some of that, but essentially what the outcome of their machinations is randomized by what they're doing. And then you have to explain what happens in the game. And what it does is it allows the DM to be surprised by what happens. So
interesting.
now, and I've seen someone take this, they played a straight up Stars Without Number game, because I'm going to basically tear that out of Stars Without Number and put it in my Traveler campaign. But I've been thinking about how can I use this in D&D? Because it wouldn't be, the system is just mechanical. It's not, and what you can do, I saw someone actually take the Stars Without Number faction system, and what he did is he let fans do the factions planning. So each faction had a group of fans built around it, and they would talk with each other, and then they would submit their faction turn. And a faction turn would happen once every month of gameplay or when a particular adventure cycle ended.
Huh.
And so what would happen is the fans would get to say, well, the psionic group does this, and we have these, we buy these resources, or we attack this thing, and these turns fire off, and then suddenly the world changes. Or in this thing, the subsector of the galaxy changes, because even though the adventurers are doing things, there's still stuff going on in the background. And then this shows up. Right. And so what this does is takes a huge burden off of you, and it prevents you from just falling into ruts about what's going on. And it gives now, because you have these fans online, you could say, hey, who wants to be, if you're part of, our subscriber base, you can run one of these factions. You can be part of this group that will give me the turn info when we run these. And you don't have to do it every week. You would do it X number of times in the year, and that would give you the kind of background hum of the region.
That's a good idea. And
Coble, Wicked Studios is saying Adam Coble. Yeah, he's doing the Stars Without Number campaign. Unfortunately, it's stopped right now because his players all burned out, and I think he's going to get a new set of players. But yeah, it was an interesting.
What channel was it on?
It's his own channel, and I don't
Twitch or
remember.
YouTube or
It's a Twitch channel.
Twitch,
yeah,
okay.
and he's on YouTube. Yeah, it's all on there.
I'll check it out because it's interesting.
Yeah.
Because we've been trying to think of ways to get input beyond just cheering and all that, from the fans. And Bryan Sublime, the other DM, came up with who's on the moderator, came up with a great idea. So a couple of weeks ago, it's actually been a couple months ago, he asked the audience to create an NPC for me,
Nice.
and they did. And her name is Fiona Swift Thistle, and I've used her once. I used her the last time Carlos Lysing gave me a module to run, Mushroom Blue, and I'm using her this Thursday for Carlos's next module he wrote for us, Warts and All. So this Thursday,
Nice.
you'll see Fiona Swift Thistle again, guys, that you created for me. So that's another great idea.
Mhm.
I'm going to check that out. Yes, it was a specialist snowflake ever, Bryan says. But I turned her into something cool. She made bracelets out of a special flower they found, and and they became bracelets of deflection that she magically enhanced, because she's like they don't know if she's like a part dryad or elf or whatever, but but they created the character and I used her. So that's a great idea, though, Bryan. I'm going to check that out, because
Yeah.
if I can get the input from the audience on some of the things going behind the scenes in Hardby, that would be great.
Yeah, because you have a whole mess of factions going on there, and that would take some of the pressure off of you to run all those factions, and then you're going to get weird choices based on who's behind who, and they're all going to have their own self-interest, and who you think might win may not.
Yeah.
Factions can crash and burn based on their choices.
It's a cool idea. It really, it really is. Now, I want to take one of Will's. Will asked a question about
Sure.
Hardby, and his question was the following. And I don't think Will asked, is he is plotting at all for any movement into Hardby, and what do you have as far as that goes? And my answer to that, and I don't know if you have the same answer. You want to handle that one first, or do you want Bryan? Because I don't think so.
As I don't have an active Hardby campaign at this moment, let's hear what you have to say, and then I'll talk about how I conceptualize Ayuz and his relationship with the domain of Greyhawk as a whole. Okay.
So, Will, what I think about this question is the following: that Ayuz, I'm sorry, the pronunciation for the South Jersey cloistered guys.
Ayuz is fine.
Ayuz is big in certain areas, but is not intertwined as much in our campaign as maybe some of the others are, and I don't think he has really much influence at all behind the Rennie that come up and down the Celentan that are in the near Div. Oh my God, there's all these pronunciations.
Near div, near dive. It's
out of Greyhawk. There's some influence from Ayuz there, but that's about it. Now Hardby is more of the Earth Dragon cult that's down in the Pomarge, has a lot more influence through in my game through Alita as part of the Slavers. There's Stalman Klim, a picture of the Earth Dragon cult, and there's all the Slavers up right now. That picture's all the Slavers. And that comes right from the Slavers reference as well. Yeah, no, Marquessa's got her own picture. And as you know, Carlos and I love the hell out of Marquessa. So
I have two of his modules, so yeah.
I have the same Marquessa. Yep, I got him over here too. What a brilliantly done. So that's my answer on it, is that it's not Ayuz. It really doesn't have much influence in Hardby, and there's a lot of other things. Hardby's got enough problems. Also, there's a picture of Yellick. There's a cult of necromancers, female cult of necromancers. It's mentioned very briefly in the Slavers, north of the High Pass. They've come down and they've done a lot of things. There was a necromancer when you got to this cove. The whole right side was run by one of those necromancers. They're like, "Oh, this side's dark. We can sneak up on here." When they got there was drowned ones, zombies. She was the only living thing on that side of the cove, and that was for a reason. So, all right, what do you think, Bryan, on your take on this?
I think you're pretty on target. Ayuz is really about conquest. If he's going to be affecting Hardby, it's because he wants something from there,
right?
Or he's dispatched one of his minions to work with someone to harry them. Like there's some, he has a real burr up his butt about Greyhawk, the city of Greyhawk. That's kind of like his, weakness. He's always looking towards there, and Furiandi and Nyrond are also his enemies, and especially the Shieldlanders, depending on what state they're in. And he's got enough to do. There has to be a real reason for him to be there. At best, there might be a cultist there keeping track of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's really hard. His people aren't super competent.
No, that's true.
It's like, and he's much more brute force, and that's not really. Hardby is just not his gig. He wouldn't do well in there. And I think he has a relationship with the Scarlet Brotherhood, and that by extension to the Slavers. So they're really more going to be the force that he's not going to expend the energy dealing with Hardby, unless there was some sort of masterstroke to cripple Greyhawk through Hardby.
Now, if any of you have done, and it was a 3.5, and I loved it, I thought it was fantastic, and we did it right before we started streaming about a year ago, Expeditions to the Ruins of Greyhawk. Ayuz is huge there. In that whole, there's a lot of intertwined Ayuz stuff. There's minions of Ayuz running all throughout the city in Greyhawk. There's a lot of intrigue in Greyhawk with Ayuz in that whole campaign module setting. It's a hardback book. I would recommend it. If you don't have it and you're not going to run it, I would get it just for some of the cool things that to read through it and go, oh wow, this explains a lot of things. So
and it's a much more compact version of Ruins of Castle Greyhawk.
Yes.
It's a lot of the stuff in it, you can see echoes of that
absolutely
module, which frankly, I know people love that module, but
it's a dungeon crawl.
It's a dungeon crawl, and it's a hot mess. It's really, you have to sit there and pick it apart to really figure out.
Yeah.
If you want to make a story out of it and not just have a straight up dungeon crawl, you're not going to have a good time with that module, and Expedition will be a much better choice for you.
Yeah.
If all you're looking for is crawl, go for it. The Ruins will have more than you could ever use. The other option is you can use Joe Black's Castle of the Mad Archmage.
Good one. Yes.
That's another variant of that's essentially his serial numbers filed off Castle Greyhawk, and it's based a lot on the stories that people that played in the campaign, the original 74 to about 78 campaign, and stories from Rob Kuntz, from Gygax, from Gygax's sons, and Skip Williams, all the people that played it and who told stories. He's tried to collect all that and then make as close, in his mind as to what the module would be like. But it's his interpretation. It's another one that you could do for that. There's some good stuff out there if you want to run that. For me, if I'm going to do my Hardby campaign, I'm going to give my players a kind of a choice of how they want to play it. I'm going to say these are the kinds of campaigns we can run. If they want to do a dungeon crawl, I'm going to take Stormkeep, which is to the
southwest, southeast,
right in the mountains, and essentially I'm going to make that the last stronghold of Emrakul the Chaotic.
Ooh.
And he's gone now, but there is this chaos magic place centered on his keep.
There it is. It's on this map. It's on this map if you want to see that. Yeah.
So in the Greyhawk Wars, that gets taken over by Greyhawk, and that becomes an outpost of the Greyhawk Mountain.
With Griffin Riders.
Griffin Riders, right. But before that, it was this ruin with a sealed dungeon below it. And so my idea is if my players want to do a mega dungeon, I'll just create one whole cloth under there, and I can put Salad in there because chaos.
Yes.
And,
nice.
And so that will be an option, right, for my players. If they choose not to do that, I'm not going to do a lick of work on that. It's just an idea right now. The other part is since I'm playing 5th edition, and since 3rd edition we've had sorcerers as a contrast. The nobility in Hardby in my campaign are going to be sorcerers, not wizards.
Interesting.
And so there isn't really a school there because they're more about just raw power and understanding it. And then I'm going to have certain NPCs that are going to tap into more than what PCs can. So because they remember I talked about this reservoir, which by the way I am stealing wholesale from a great series called The Magicians on Sci-Fi Channel. If you haven't seen it, you can steal ideas from that for days. It is great, and frankly, the whole Magicians book series and that thing, it's all based off of Vancian D&D magic.
Of course.
Yeah, it's great because they all literally the hand gestures are insane for the spells. But I digress. But that whole reservoir idea, I'm stealing whole cloth from the last season of The Magicians.
But it's okay to take stuff. We've talked about that before. I mean, I just counted how many classes we have now in our campaign, different character classes.
Yeah.
42. And a lot of that's come from Baldur's Gate or come from Neverwinter Nights event, all that stuff.
Thrones,
the Maester. Yeah.
I mean, and that's great. As long as people are having fun and it doesn't unbalance the game, awesome sauce. And for me, it's more important to tell the stories than to keep I have plans for how I'm going to bring Dragonborn into. I haven't settled on what it is going to be yet, but I have multiple ways I could bring Dragonborn into Greyhawk. Sure. Because I will have Dragonborn in my Greyhawk. They won't be there initially, but they will eventually, and it'll be an event that will bring.
Interesting.
The player characters will have a role to play. They're coming, but how they're received and how they interact with the kingdoms around them when they show up, that's going to be on the players to figure out.
Yeah.
And if they choose not to, things can be a little rougher. Because I'm not going to have Rary the Trader in the desert. I have a whole idea that I'm going to totally throw out a lot of stuff about the Saloon Empire. And it was Tiamat that tricked them. And she stole a bunch of those Flan people from the Saloon Empire, turned them into Dragonborn to be her foot soldiers on the plains. Interesting. And then they're going to come back into that desert.
Mark pulled Draconians into his version of what he's doing in my campaign on Monday nights. They play every other Monday, and unfortunately couldn't come on tonight. So I really am not sure what he's even running tomorrow night. But even though the event's up, but he's pulled Draconians in too. Here's a question for you though. Back on Hardby.
Sure.
We love Hardby is the one place where we campaign where we have ships. Where we have ship-based combat and ship-to-ship, and the movement rules and all that stuff is really, we just make them up. We try and do a certain amount of movement. It's tough. It's tough to incorporate.
You kind of have to with second and first edition.
Yeah.
Because, there are books on ships and sailing combat. They're pretty
here's
wibbly-wobbly.
Ship stuff. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The main thing is I would just do it more in story mode, right? There'd be tactical stuff on the deck,
right?
But I'm not going to sit there and the wind is coming from X.
It's tough.
That doesn't matter. Just get onto the story, right? Unless it's a story reason for it. Harn has had a whole rule thing Yeah, I mean, if I wanted to play a miniatures war game, I'd play a miniatures war game, guys. There's plenty of good ones out there.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
By the way, do you have gunpowder in your Greyhawk?
Well, that's a great question. And Anna was shocked on Thursday night, and I'm gonna get fantastic. I didn't even prep you on that. So right at the beginning of Thursday night, they hear an explosion go off, and there's a tower. I'm gonna show you a picture. And a cannonball hits right above their heads. It missed. It only hit once the whole night. Shot from the heroine. And they're like, what the hell is this? See, there's the heroine in the left-hand corner. So they have a cannon it's called Big Persuader. It's etched into the cannon on this ship. So when at the end of the night, they captured and have to scuttle the ship from Michael Baton, they take the cannon. Well, it's not gunpowder, it's smoke powder, that magical, you know what I mean? Like the special piece of Merlin. There's a picture of it off. Wait, I got a real good one. There's another one. There it is. See the cannon? There's a cannon right there. The two Corsairs are shooting it at the group. And so
in the Forgotten Realms, they have essentially that magical powder, and that's the gnomes of Lantham create it, and that's where what few guns exist in that world come from that particular group.
Yeah.
I think in in Dragon Heist, the last module they dropped, there are some drow duelists that have pistols, and they're kind of scary. So there's some cool things you can do. It's just, yeah, I mean, you can get. I mean, let's face it, Merlin.
They can use smoke powder. Yeah.
Yeah. Gygax didn't want gunpowder in there because why would you have magic if
right?
It changes the nature of combat. So he made it. But his buddy Don Kay wanted to play the man with no name, Clint Eastwood, in frickin' Greyhawk.
Well, he came from Boot Hill. I never knew that.
Yeah, and so he made an exception. Now,
it's a great question. We have a very, very rare. Not a single character in the campaign shoots a gun. I'm gonna put that out there right now, guys. And
sure.
Not one, but NPCs sometimes have had had them occasionally. And this cannon was a rare exception. Guarding Fortress Elendar was a bombard. If anyone remembers back in the days of that adventure, I'm just talking to people who did it. So I have in my proficiencies list, because we've incorporated in a firearms proficiency in the rare chance, and you have to take either pistol, rifle, or cannon. And a cannon has been on there for 2 years, and this is the first instance of I wanted to throw it in there as a wrench. Oh, it's not a ballista shooting at them. I wanted them to see what happened when a cannonball hit over their head. Now they took the gun. They don't know what to do with it, right? So they have a cannon. They put it down there, the ballast of the ship. They have it.
A whole adventure about trying to figure out where the smoke.
Exactly. But that's a great idea. But you can take that proficiency to learn smoke powder usage in our game, but no one's done it yet, so I'm not worried about it. I threw it in there just to be different, a little bit here and there, but it's magical powder. It's not technological powder.
Hey, you don't have to explain it to me.
Yeah, but it was a great question.
Barrier Peaks exists.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And, you can, back in the wild woolly days of early original Dungeons and Dragons, it wasn't just a fantasy world. They were doing planetary romance. John Carter of Mars, they had red and green planets. They went to Barsoom, in the original Greyhawk campaign. Yeah. Now, they couldn't publish that because they didn't have the rights to Edgar, Rice Burroughs' stuff. That's fine, but there's nothing stopping you from doing whiz bang gee whiz Greyhawk. That is a thing, right?
I occasionally like to throw a wrench into things, and that was it, man. And that was exactly it with the cannon. I can't believe you even asked that. I mean, look at this picture down here. This is outside Cantona. If you ever read,
well, as soon as you said mine, there has to be some sort of explosive, unless it's a fireball.
But did you ever read about Cantona and the Slavers? They have machinery, like they have almost like a tank in the ruins of Cantona that shoots flamethrowers out. It sounds like it got ripped off from the original James Bond Dr. No. Remember that flamethrower device? But it's right in the Slavers book. They have equipment like that. So
the apparatus of Kowalsh.
Yeah,
that's a steampunk submarine ROV thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
There is all these fantastical elements. It doesn't have to be straight up fantasy if you don't want it to be. Or you can play fantasy, or you can do grimdark fantasy, or you can do swords and sorcery. It's up to you. Greyhawk, the chassis that is Greyhawk, can support so many different forms over the top of it. You can make it what you want it to be. And if you want to have magic powder, awesome sauce. If your players are buying into that, and they're again, as long as everyone's having fun and it doesn't unbalance your game to the point of ridiculousness, just understand what the consequences of those are, and you're golden.
Brian, I want to make an announcement. I just the bell that everyone has on, if you're Twitch broadcast, you have a bell which gives you all sorts of updates. We just reached the achievement Who Watches the Watchers for 75-viewer average just now across all, and that's the magic number. So
that's a magic number, and
that's a magic number. So now we'll see what other things open up from this. Thank you all very much. 75 is the magic number. It just popped up on my bell. Just went off with a 1 on it. Thank you, Will. Now we wait. After I fill out paperwork, that should open up tomorrow morning. We wait and see what Twitch says. So
Well,
thank
that's
you.
awesome.
Yep.
For you guys.
Yeah. Well, look, you're part of this. Listen, you were so accepting of me about a year ago, and I thank you for that, because I really didn't know. My guys were all cloistered, and we went through this story. I'm going to tell this story when I'm on Legends of Lore on June 5th. That if it wasn't for Greyhawk Mike, I may have never done this, because he put on that ad of the Canadian guy, longest D&D campaign in history, ... And he put that video and linked it on his site. I'm like, that kind of set me off, that the guy was saying that 35 years he had. I was like, we got him by 2 years. That was at the time. And that kind of, so I'll tell that story on there. But
and the great thing about it is all I did was give you some encouragement. You're the one that did the heavy lifting, man.
I know, but it was good to have a welcoming person. I didn't know what I was going to get into. I didn't know how the community was back then. And yes, Anna, it's a great story. So it's a great story. Hey, Crazy Seth, how are you, man? Hopefully you're enjoying this talk about Hardby and other things. Bryan, Blumklotz, and I are... and there is Carlos. Carlos Lysing is on too. All right,
hey, Carlos. I'm so sorry I didn't get to see you at the end of GaryCon. I wanted you to sign my modules, but we just, you were so busy, and I was, I got messed up by the time change on that Sunday.
Low asked how many characters have died in the campaign. I'm going to say about 60 to 70. Low, about that. Man, that's a guess. So it's excellent. He says. So if you're getting into D&D, Crazy Seth, first thing I suggest, hit that follow button, and then you're going to learn all you need to know about old school here. Secondly, Greyhawk is the way to go, man. Thirdly, we will get you the Discord channel. Could someone please pop the Discord channel login into our chat? I'll do that now. If you want to learn about what's going on in the D&D community, let me go to. I always got to go to Facebook, then I got to go to Cannon Fire, and I go to announcements. I have it down. I have it down.
You need to bookmark it.
I know. Here we go. I'm gonna link this in. Please feel free. Thank you. See, ask and you shall receive. Here we go.
So,
there's the Discord server. You're all welcome to join in. Bryan is a greater god. I'm only a lesser god. Anna's a lesser god. So Bryan and Christoph are greater gods. Hi. Going to bed? Okay.
Yeah. So just so you know, this is the Greyhawk Online Discord server. We've created a place for Wicked Studios and for Lord Gazumba and other
Legends
things.
There
is people who are looking for games. There's a new channel for that Jay created. Thank you for doing that, by the way.
No problem.
And so if you want to interact with other people here, be able to do Discord chats with them, via text or audio, and you can even do video off of that if you want to. It's a great place to be and gather. Come check us out. And Christoph and I will be, and Jay and
Anna and Mike and Dog.
Everybody there, would be happy to have you there. And if you have questions, there's people that will answer them. Yep. It's a great resource. I'll just say this is that Greyhawk has been around a long time. It's meant a lot of things to a lot of different people. Make it, if you're not already in it, if you're looking to do it, make it your own. There's plenty of room for whatever you want it to be. And, it's just, and the great thing is that there's a lot of the old stuff now available either in PDF or print on demand on RPG, Drive-Thru RPG or DM's Guild, whichever one, because that's the Wizard of the Coast stuff. So it's on both sides of that particular platform, and you can order it there and get copies of it if you want it, rather than spending exorbitant amounts on eBay for actual hard copies, the originals. And you don't have to be someone like me who grew up on it back in I got into D&D in 1979, and so I've had a long time in this, in this biz, so to speak, not as professional, but as a player and a DM. And I've just collected this stuff over time. If you're new to this, it's there.
Listen, the Nazrat is 24 years old, and he, gets his inspiration from some of the things we do, and he plays his own. He has his own homegrown campaign. It's not Greyhawk based, but you can reflect on Greyhawk is a great point of reference for how to build things because it was done. The building blocks were done properly early on. So now Carlos is on. I want to do some announcements now, Brian, if that's okay with you.
Be my guest.
First, Carlos and I, our module for Gen Con, I'm running the first 4 hours. Carlos is running the second 4 hours. It's called Horror in the Hools, has been approved by Gen Con. I think the sign-ups start May 15th. There's only 6 slots. If you're going to Gen Con and you want to play in an adventure I start and Carlos finishes, well, you better sign up on that 15th of May because we only have 6 slots for it. So I am so excited about that. To do something jointly with Carlos is going to be a blast. Secondly, Carlos's second module that he wrote for us for my campaign called Warts and All. Whoops, dropped the book.
Is it the Hopping Prophet? Tell me it's the Hopping Prophet.
It's not. But Warts and All will be run Thursday night. I'm going to run this on Thursday. Oh, cat in the room. That's okay. Thursday evening. It's going to be a one-nighter. This is written by the great Carlos Lysing for the Order of Revealed campaign. This takes place at Warmonger's Tower. It starts there in the Principality of Ulick. Warmonger's Tower is up. Build a Master Crafter has not finished painting it. Wait till you see the crafting on this. It is the biggest single piece of terrain, tallest he's ever made. It is freaking awesome. And now it's not completely painted, but it's all workings of it are done. It is beautiful. Really cool. So you'll see that Thursday night with Carlos. Combine it with our stratagem getaway. Thursday night should be a monster night. So there you go, Carlos. There's some Carlos Lysing announcements. Carlos is also going to attempt to turn the module that we're doing, Horror in the Hools, into a published module after Gen Con. So it'll be the first time I've ever had a module published, and it'll be done through CSL Entertainment, a 50-50 deal with Carlos and me. I'm excited about that, too. That is cool. Thank you. Oh, yeah. We're going to have a blast with it. They're going to hate you, Carlos, after I was reading through some of the... If you thought Mushroom Blue was nasty, Warts and All is a little bit nastier.
If it's anything like that underwater cave
oh my God,
that he did in OJ28 /
the Cerulean Cyst? No.
Oh, God. Carlos, you are so evil. I love you, man, but God, you're evil.
Yeah, Carlos is the... Oh man, Carlos has some great ideas. I love Carlos as far as, and he promised me a third module, which I look forward to in the future. But we got a lot of stuff we're going to do together in the future. And Carlos was on a couple episodes ago, and we'll be on our next DM's Roundtable as well. So I saw Carlos on. I wanted to do that announcement that we got some stuff, fuels in the fire going. Now if we can just get Carlos to join our Discord server. Yeah. I've been trying, but he's part of our
shout out
group.
To your wife Amanda. She's amazing.
Yes.
Okay, when you get to meet her, she's definitely the better half.
Absolutely.
All right, Carlos. I will say, if this is your first Gen Con,
it is.
It's going to be an amazing experience for you. I envy you. The last Gen Con I did was 2000 when it was in Milwaukee. I had a blast. It is so much bigger than whatever I attended. And it's going to be good times.
I am looking forward to staying. We, myself, Marco, and 2 of his players, we have a room at the Greyhawk hostel. We have our own room. I haven't gotten with Shane yet, but I imagine we'll be doing some games there as well. I'm also DMing for Miniature Building Authority on the day. By the way, that's Thursday. The first day, Thursday, is the Carlos Adventure. Friday, I'm going to be DMing on the main floor. At Miniature Building Authority, so that'll be good. Yeah, well, Sprocket, you live in the UK, so yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's cool. She's grinning and blushing, and that's an awesome thing. And Amanda and Carlos have been great supporters of this channel as well, and I can't wait to help him out with his broadcasting and streaming as well as he moves forward. I know he's looking at VTT stuff now.
Well,
And
if Carlos and Amanda are going to be at GaryCon next year, I'm bringing my wife Melissa with me, so you get to meet
excellent.
her.
I will
So
be
yeah.
there too.
Oh, Jay, that's going to be awesome.
Thanks to the Grow Dog, I got a room right inside that
So did
day.
I.
That's it.
Yeah.
The only problem is I may have a conflict with a work trip that happens every Florida goes when we go to Florida, but we'll see. We'll worry about that down the road.
Sick days.
Yeah, but it's unfortunately an award trip to Captiva Island, Florida, so that's the problem.
Yeah. Well.
I know I'm gonna have to make some tough choices. So a couple other things. Next week is up in the air on Friday, on Sunday, if Celestian, aka who does Fantasy Ground Coding, comes with me. We may switch it. Right now, we're just going to do a prelude to the next event we're going to do for the Order of Ulick, the Defense of the Watchers Towers. It's the ad I've been running with these new Miniature Building Authority towers. It's called Situation in the Pomarge. That'll be next Sunday night's Gabbin. We're going to talk about what's going on in the Principality of Pomarge border to prep for that. But if Celestian comes and wants to do the Fantasy Grounds Gabbin next Sunday, then we'll do that, because the 19th I think we'll be off because that's the Game of Thrones finale and there's parties going on everywhere. I think we may take a Sunday night off. We'll see.
Yeah, I did get the stink eye from Melissa when I told her I was going to be with you, Jay, during Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I know, but at least DVR, you can at least push it. Yeah, it's all, you're only missing a little bit of it here. At least we can push it back. So that's what's going on, and we have Mark's group meets tomorrow night, 6 p.m. EDT. It'll probably go back to Slap, the Stupendously Lucky Adventuring Party. He hasn't given me any updates on what he's doing, so the event is up to what he last told me he's doing, but they are meeting tomorrow night, so that's 6 to 9 p.m. tomorrow night. And that group gets more and more traction every time they're on, and it's every 2 weeks, and they use a lot of terrain and minis too, because they have Jacob Jansen, Jeff, who does a lot of crafting for them. So we have a crafter for each location, which is great. So what else you got going there, Brian, before we call it an evening here? And this is another great one. Thank you all. So, next adventure card 2 weeks from now. That is awesome, Carlos. I can't wait. It's not an adventure card either. These are adventures. He said it's not a one-sheet card. They're like 9 pages. So that's what Carlos considers a card. So what? Anything else you have brewing there? We did not talk about our Altamira heraldry that we need to create. I got some ideas on that. We can get to that in the future.
We did a brief discussion about that. Tax season was kind of hell, and I'm starting to have more time now.
Okay.
And so that what I need to do is finish the Knight's Chain for you guys.
The collar chain,
for the Order of Ulick.
We actually had one ceremony that we pretended to give that chain, put that chain on someone. So I don't think I put it up here because I wanted to. Yeah, absolutely. It was Bill's Ranger Aylwin, who now is, and I told you we have the first Ulick Pathfinders, which is a subgroup that basically can have neutrals in it in that area too. And you said do a badge for them as well, so we have to think about a badge of some sort too.
I guess I feel like if they're not an actual knightly order, a badge is more appropriate. Kind of like the gnarly Rangers have the acorn kind of little pins. That's equivalent of a badge actually.
Okay.
You could do it something like that, or we could do it like an actual patch type arrangement. But it'll be a little bit different than heraldry. It serves the same purpose more or less. It'll just be not as bright and whatnot, because the Rangers aren't all about flash and battlefield identification.
Absolutely.
Right.
So Carlos just asked, are you accepting commissions for heraldry? How can that was the Carlos Lysing asked you that?
Yeah. I'm gonna have to get on the legal part of that, because I am using an image library from Armorial Gold. If you haven't seen that, if you deal in vector graphics and you want to do heraldry, that is quite possibly the best resource you'll ever find. And I need to kind of establish the rights I have under that. And then I think what I'll have to do, especially with Greyhawk heraldry, if I'm just doing straight up fantasy heraldry, I think it's much more clear cut. If I'm doing Greyhawk heraldry, then I have to do a Patreon because I can't sell Greyhawk heraldry stuff that's created by TSR or WotC. That's just not possible. But I need to figure that out because that's something I want to clarify and get set up for this year. Because I think having, yeah. So the short answer would be hopefully soon. I would really like to do that, and we should talk offline, Carlos, about what you're seeking, and then I can come up with something.
You go in the future of Greyhawk Group. Crazy Seth just asked, the pictures on the right, they are actually stills of my Twitch campaign on this channel, Seth. So come on Thursday. This Thursday is going to be a lot of tile usage because Carlos has this bizarre circular spiral dungeon that there's no way I can do it. Even in what do you call it? Dwarven Forge. I don't have enough, so I have to do it in tiles. But the outdoor part, the pictures will be up. And I put them on Facebook. I put them in Discord on ours. I put one up because it only takes one at a time. I put them on Twitter. You'll see the pictures for the preludes. I usually put them up Tuesday before we adventure on Thursday night. So, but these are live shots that are in still that we're taking as the adventures went on in my campaign. Seth, just wanted to let you know.
You should probably throw up a link to the last episode if he wants to kind of catch up to what's going on in the action and see what you guys do. Be prepared to have your mind blown. The level of detail in the terrain that they use and the tactical miniature stuff they do for a first, second edition game.
Thank you very much.
You're very, very welcome. My compliments are free. You don't have to Patreon me for that.
Yeah.
It's a very unique RPG because a lot of stuff that you're seeing out there right now is theater in the mind, and this is the exact opposite, of that, and it works, and it's great that you're out there showing people other ways to play this game. I think it's important for people to see the possibilities now, and you don't have to have how many years built up of this stuff you have been doing?
This is year 39. So
right.
We do have an idea. See the symbol that's up right now that you made?
Yeah.
Next year, I would like you to add one thing behind it.
Sure.
A big 4 and a big 0, because it'll be our 40th year, and we want to celebrate it next year. So we want the Order of Yule symbol with a 40 behind it, because it'll be the 40th year of the Order of Yule campaign.
Actually, what we'll do is we'll do the 40 with transparency, so it'll just overlay on that.
Awesome.
That'll
look
really
sweet. And
it'll look super sweet.
Walt came up with that idea and wanted to do that. He's like, I was like, that's a great idea, Walt. The 40th, 40th year of our campaign will be next year. So guys, videos are up. You just click on the videos. The videos are in order right on here. Twitch keeps them for 60 days. I export everything to our YouTube mirror server. It's Lord Gazumba with a space instead of the two names together, like it is on Twitch. It's the only difference. So, 40. Well, we got a lot of things in the works. After I get through Gen Con, and I get through PAX Unplugged in December in Philly. After that, we're going to plan the shit out of the 40th year next year. I promise you that. It'll be a big thing. We'll really push that at that time. Yeah, I need a clone. I need a lot of me's. But we're looking forward to all the fun. I'm having a blast. I know, Bryan. I've said this 100 times, but thanks. I mean, really. I mean, the heraldry. It just makes the Order of Yule pop and stand out now.
It ties you into the original Greyhawk publishing piece, which is had that heraldry in there. It's just one more little thing. I mean, it's great. You didn't really need it, but I love that you love it. And I'm glad I've been able to spark some ideas for you.
And without me doing this, I would have met you. I would have met Carlos. I would have met Anna. I would have met Will. I would have met all the viewers. I would have met Sprocket, Naz, Rox. I would have met any of these people. And that's what I look and I say, wow, that's why I love doing this. Is that you just meet some great people, and I would have never run a 5e game like we did last Saturday night because
Mhm.
we've never done it. And now I played in a 5e game. And then, by the way, June 1st, once again, everyone, June 1st, Bryan is not this Bryan, but Bryan Sublime is DMing 5e part 2 of Iris of the Moon with me playing. Bill the Master Crafter, the Nazarite, and Anna Meyer playing in that game. We may have a fifth. Jeremy the fifth may be in who wasn't in last time, but so you are selfless, Bryan, and that's a great thing. And it's with a Y though, Will. I have to say that because our Bryan's with an I. So so what do you have? You have anything else in closing for us here? I know we're running a little
So
late, but that's okay. We're having a blast.
yeah, so I'll just kind of swing back to Hardby a little bit.
Go for it.
Hardby is an interesting thing. I think it got the short shrift in publishing.
Yes.
But if you take it back to its roots, if you go back to the original Greyhawk box set or the folio and build it up from there, Greyhawk is the city of Greyhawk is great, but there is so much history and weight there. If you want to have your own place, Hardby is an amazing place you could go. There are so many adventure sites around that place. You have the bright desert to deal with, the Aberrals Hills and mountains. There's the Woolly Bay with the slavers across the way, the humanoids of the Pomage. You can send out trading expeditions to the Tivenut Peninsula, and go have some weird jungle adventures out there. You can go meet there's just so much you can do from there. And you can do seaborne adventures out of there. There's a lot of things you can do. So if you're going to, don't just go off what's published, use that as inspiration, make it your own.
Yes.
Make something you go this little piece here from the box set version, which is Greyhawk is there. Now go and make use of it. Make it yours. And that's the best advice I can give to any player or DM out there is Greyhawk is what you make of it. Don't wait for people like me or Jay to make it for you. You can help, but the best part is just playing in it, playing with it. It becomes something that's yours.
It is your realm to do whatever you want in it, and that's why I love it so much. And that's one of my guys. We've never gone off a Greyhawk in 39 years. I mean, we've been playing the same damn campaign for that long. You know what I mean? It's our world. And it's been enhanced by what you've done and what Anna's done. I got maps now with my own locations on them. My God, you know what I mean? With my own housery on it, and that's been further. The point I'm trying to make is make it your own, and then find great people who will even help you even further. And that's what you can do, being part of the community we've put together here. I mean, like I said, I would have never thought this time last year I'd be going to Gen Con and DMing with the great Carlos Lacing. Come on. I would have never thought in a million years that would be happening, but it is.
I got to do a panel with the man and Anna and Greyhawk Mike and
absolutely
Alan and Christoph. It was a blast. I mean, I think we'll probably do it a little bit differently this next year.
And I'll be part of it more than likely.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm really hopeful that maybe something will eventually come freeing it into DM's Guild at Wizards of the Coast so that we can start officially publishing some stuff again, fan material, and have a basis to bring all the new players in, But, Carlos keeps the lights lit with the stuff he's doing, in his own private piece. Your game, what DM Shane's doing, what Anna does with her maps. It's all the blogs out there. There's amazing blogs out there if you want to look for it. Everybody has a different opinion about what Greyhawk is to them.
So, Seth asked a question which I'm not sure I understand. He said, well, how do you hide the secret which would have ruined the arc? I'm not sure if I understand what he means.
How do you hide the secret?
Yeah. If you can elaborate. Do you mean on my maps, on my table? Or do you mean what we're discussing? I'm kind of a little confused, but it's a DM question. He asked a general DM question. So as maybe he'll type something in on that as Arcus Millennial speak for plot. Oh, geez. Okay. So there's a lot of one of the characters found out the big. There's a lot of, with my players are all in their 50s and 40s and 50s. They know there's some things that in the background they kind of assume or know based on discussions, based on, you cannot. Here's something. When you're DMing, there's sometimes you got to throw out tidbits here and there to whet the appetites of players. So it's okay that they may know, like everyone, but Alita Norbalos is the evil in Hardby, but they knew that anyway.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm trying to say. It's hard to explain, Seth, but
I can put something out there for you.
Go for
it. So the difference is it character knowledge or player knowledge?
Exactly.
And that's kind of the difference between someone who's finding their way in role-playing games and someone who's really established. Is you learn to come from your character's point of view, and you don't let player knowledge interfere with that. To give you an example, my wife and I, in the campaign we're playing in now, which is a home campaign, someone else's home campaign, we know a lot about each other's characters and their backstories because we kind of bounce ideas off each other. But when we play at the table, we don't act on that knowledge. And if our DM gives us a little tidbit that our players wouldn't know, or we see a scene play out with another character who knows it, but we don't act on that.
Yeah.
And that's just that's a maturity piece in terms of the play.
Great point.
And there's no way to keep everything a secret. The hidden information aspect. There's something to keep a secret. And again, this kind of comes back to an earlier part in this discussion where we talked about it's really hard to maintain a mystery, because if you don't give enough information, people lose the trail.
Yeah,
or don't even find
tough.
it. And if you give too much, they might solve it immediately. The thing to do is don't be dependent on the secret for the tension in your campaign. If that is the only tension in your campaign, you're in for a lot of sadness.
Right. You got
as a DM, it's just going to be really painful because all your plans will get derailed. What you do is, if they peel back that layer, the great thing about Greyhawk is there's always wheels within wheels.
Yeah.
Who's behind that person?
Yep.
Is that person the patsy for someone else? So they found out about that. Does that really get them? If that's the only layer of the onion, you haven't done your job, basically, as a DM. There should be other things going on, and you should be able to pivot. And especially listening to your players. Like, if they figure something out and they come up with a cooler idea, steal it. Use
Absolutely.
it. Oh yeah, that's totally what I meant.
And Seth,
yeah.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, if you get on the Discord server, you're going to get hundreds of years of DM experience. Literally hundreds.
Yeah.
My 40, you're 40, Grodog's 40. I mean, it's
I'm
insane.
Actually 52.
Yeah, 52 years of DMing.
Oh no,
40 years of DMing.
1979 to now. Yeah,
we're both 52.
Oh, DMing experience. Yeah. And my wife is probably equal to me on that.
That's awesome.
And so my household, we got 80 years sitting in the house.
Yes.
Right there.
Last week's Gabbin episode was a DM roundtable. I had 8 DMs and myself in it. It was fantastic. It was just us talking issues on DMing. Previous Gabbin 43, that's on the vids. Watch that too. That'll be a good help as well. And we're going to do them every 3 months. They're so popular because before another channel rips the idea off, we're going to do another one every 3 months, I think, because it's going to happen.
I can't say enough about Matt Colville's videos on playing and DMing. If DM tips by Satine Phoenix and or Matt Mercer, which I want to say that was Geek and Setting Up, but I may be wrong on that.
I think it was.
The blogs by Sly Flourish are amazing. He really talks about nuts and bolts about DMing and kind of breaks stuff down. There are so many resources out there that you can get. I know that Steve Jackson's bringing back into print Robin Law's
Car Wars.
Well, the Car Wars, but he's also Robin Laws wrote this book called A Guide to Good DMing or something similar to that. I'm mangling the title, but
That's okay.
it's about to be put back into print. Right now, it's only available in PDF online. If you want to get really into deep cuts, there's a whole thing on story beats, which is used in script writing and television. But understanding story beats will be a way that you can adjust the knobs on the tension of your game. Because you want to keep people on the edge of the seat, but you want to give them some release so that they're not overwhelmed. You don't want to give them a panic attack at your table, and you don't want them to be bored. And so there's insane resources out there that you should make use of. The internet is an amazing tool.
Yes, it
hopefully
is.
I've cut through some of the noise and to find some of the best of those resources.
Well, you've been a fantastic guest. It's the second time I've ever had a Gabbin. I mean, it's great. I know we were running like so late over, which is okay because there's no time limit on things. But I mean, this has been fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Last two things.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Bryan already looked at this. My next article for their journal is called "The Free Swords of Greyhawk City." It's about all the mercenary groups in Greyhawk. It's going to be pretty cool. It's got some data in there, but it talks about published groups, not canon, published groups and our own. So it'll be neat. It'll be in this month's Earth Journal. And I wanted to say thank you one more time, please, to everyone who's watching. I said this at the beginning when some of you weren't on, but for the first time ever, and we always, Thursday night, we always joke, we're 30,000 viewers behind, Critical Role. Yeah, we're good, but we're 30,000 behind. There's a way to study. There's a way to do analysis on Twitch. It's called Sully Gnome. All right, the last 7 days we were in the top 20 in viewing hours across all Dungeons and Dragons broadcast channels. Period, counting all of them. Geek and Sundry, Hyper RPG, Encounter Roleplay. We were ahead of them. Critical Role. We were, all of them. We were the 19th most watched Dungeons and Dragons Twitch channel in the last 7 days. Thank you all so very much for doing that. It was like 1,100 hours watched. Beautiful. I appreciate it. I'm humbled by all this, and I just wanted to end with that. Thank you very much. So
and thank you all for being here tonight. It amazes me that people want to hear me talk.
You're a wealth of knowledge. Like I said, you go, I put you on a high pedestal, but you deserve to be up there, and that's why I wanted to say thanks for that. So, So
I appreciate that.
Yep. Wow. So Naz says Critical Role's best character was Molly Mark. Our best character is Michael Baton, of course, and there's no competition. That's a great way to end it tonight.
That is awesome.
That is a way to end it tonight. I'm going to put up. The Defense of the Watchtower vid real quick, and then we'll go to our final vid for Miniature Building Authority. Glory fucking be. Naz says thanks everyone for watching tonight. The community is growing. We're all having fun. I'm Jay, aka Lord Gazumba. My special guest tonight was Bryan Blumklotz, who is I pronounce everything wrong.
It was German. It was Blumenklotz. Then my grandfather Americanized it to Blumklotz. So you're close, man. Yeah. I love you, man. Don't worry about it.
Dude, I love you too. Second time on, we'll have you on again. Obviously, we'll talk some other turkey on some other things, but I'll see you all soon. Tomorrow night, we are live with Mark, 6 p.m. EDT, with whatever Adventures of Slap. We'll see you all tomorrow night, and have a good one, and 2 screens, hopefully. I don't mess this up. Bryan, if you want to hang a second, you're more than welcome to.
Sure.
That was probably long enough for that.
Make sure that everything went where it needed to go. Oh, that was amazing. Wow, that did go long.
Yeah, we did go long, but once you get in on a roll and you enjoy what you're doing, this is our shtick too, guys. You can hear us still. This is Frank from Nightheart Gaming called it our MST3K stick. So we talk over the vids at the end or the beginning, so that's why you can hear us still. Not a problem.
Why is everyone so static? There's just no movement on the screen. Who directed this?
Yeah.
No, it's amazing the various stuff that happened. I like the wheelbarrow on the dock there.
Well, I'm going to be playing with this at Gen Con that Friday at the Miniature Building Authority table on the floor with this.
Oh, wow. So this isn't out yet.
This is the Kickstarter, and it's coming out in the summer. It's all been ordered. And I'm getting a lot of this. And I'm either going to do an invasion with Sahagwin or Drow Ones or Pirates. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. One of those.
I am so psyched to see the Salt Marsh book that we're going to put out here in the next month from WotC. They're, by the way, they're going to have 5e ship rules in it, so you may want to steal some of that.
Ooh.
Yeah, I talked with a friend of mine up at WotC, and what I'm hearing is they basically stated ships like they are a creature, and so that you'll be construct obviously, but